Hey there, Guardians. Before we get the show started, I did want to sit there and just do a quick remembrance of Lance Reddick. He was a voice actor to Zavala. He also was an actor in a lot of other shows and stuff like that. And just from what we've seen social media wise and the coverage, he was just a good man. And he was lost yesterday on the 17th of March to natural causes, according to reports. So we just wanted to do a quick remembrance for him before we get started with the show.
Absolutely. And our thoughts, prayers, and condolences not only with the families, but everybody else that has been touched by this beautiful human's influence, if you will.
Yes, his thoughts and prayers are with us and with those of his family. And that was Commander Zavala. Me being a Titan main, that definitely kind of hit pretty deep.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely a shock. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you were just talking about that too. I mean, on your Twitter of you just seeing him a couple days ago on his Twitter and with his dogs barking and that stuff. It's a sad day in the Disney community for sure. And shout out to all the Guardians that were out there and kind of showing what we can. I mean, it's a video game, so showing what we can with the vigils basically around Commander Zavala in game on the tower. That was beautiful.
Exactly. Exactly. In loving memory.
In loving memory.
The Blueberry Lounge is a Destiny 2 podcast dedicated to Guardians.
Finish them.
The lounge stands out as a place to celebrate Guardians from all walks of life with a focus on players who may not be considered top tier, but love the game and want to focus on improving. We interview Guardians to find out more about them, discuss our relative interests from weapons to builds, the various activities, maps, strategies, and more. Looking forward to it, Guardian. The Blueberry Lounge.
Yes! This is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is SweatySpookz here, and
What up, what up, what up? This is Native Raider.
we are
The
the
Blueberry.
Blueberry Lounge.
Whoa, what the hell is going on here?
Oh,
It sounds like
hey,
a
guys.
takeover.
These guys
a
trying to
f-
take
a
the show
flubby-
over.
A flubby takeover?
I would like to speak to my lawyer.
Laz? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to episode number 9 of the Blueberry Lounge. And today we are accompanied with the Guardian Hub. Ladies and gentlemen, may I please introduce Kingsley Mack
Hello.
and a Senor Deserac.
Hi.
I had to think about
Otherwise
that for a
known,
second too.
otherwise known as Des Raven. I've been sitting on Deserac for a little while, Des. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I believe I would have worn it if we didn't have a patron also very closely come in. So it's like, well, poop. But yeah, I'll probably switch to that at some point in time.
I love it. And if I'm not mistaken, well, I think we got another Blueberry Lounge clan founder in here, Native Raider. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How are you guys doing today? Thank you guys for joining us on this episode as well.
Yeah, no problem.
Massive pleasure. Massive.
We
Okay,
are
so
excited to be here. Yeah.
absolutely. It's been an exciting week in Destiny, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been all right. Just
I mean, I can't imagine why. I mean, it's not like anything important or massive happened, right? I mean,
Well, same old, same old.
same old.
dead game.
Dead game, yeah. Well, listeners, just before we dive into it, first thing I'd like to address is a little housekeeping. It's pretty short this week. We just want to thank a couple of members that have joined the clan, the Blueberry Lounge. So first, let's give a warm welcome to members Doobie Snacks. Reaper Zay, Zach Impossible, X Factor, and Bozo Wolf. Welcome to the clan, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, welcome, gentlemen. I love X Factor. I like how he spelled that too. I thought that was super unique. I was looking at it for a second as well, like, okay, I know I'm not dumb, but I don't know what that word is. It took me a little
Right.
bit to actually figure it out, but I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
I do
Factor's
like.
good people. I actually met him in trials last season, and we just kept in touch ever since. So, yeah,
Nice.
welcome to the clan, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, welcome to you all. I'll go over real quick the agenda for the show before we get into our guest interviews. And real simple, this one, we're going to be obviously talking to our guests, getting to know them more. I'm sure most of you listening already know them very, very well, but we're going to get to know them again for those that are just tuning into this podcast and got a few good questions for them. They'll take a stab at the wheel of misfortune as well. And then we'll get into our show topic. And for this episode, we're going to do a deep dive into the new raid, Root of Nightmares. We're going to talk about everything there is to it, some of the new weapons, and all that kind of good stuff. And then we'll get into the TWAB. We got quite a few questions for the guest as well as for the show, and a couple announcements, and that will probably call it a show. So, Sweaty, do you want to start out the interview?
Hey, let's do it and dive right into it. So, let's see here. Let's start with Kingsley, and then we'll follow up with Des for answering this one. So, Kingsley, my friend, would you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your role within the Destiny 2 community?
Yes, thank you. I live in the state of Utah in the United States, although I grew up in Southern California. Shout out Native Raider.
Hey.
A little bit older. I grew up there in the 80s and 90s and left to Utah in about the year 2000, but loved it down there. I lived nearish Disneyland, so out of high school, it was a good job to get because they paid well and they needed thousands of employees during the summer and stuff. So a lot of people in our area knew to get a job there versus anywhere else. And had a lot of fun, and it was basically schooling and work and starting my business that took me to Utah. And always enjoyed gaming. In fact, I've been trying the Diablo 4 beta that just came out this weekend because that's a big callback. Diablo was big even in like my childhood, early adult life, 1, 2, and 3. And it's so exciting to see Diablo 4 finally coming out. But I've always been into gaming from the Nintendo and everything, and then finally found out about the game Destiny. And when I got into that, I really enjoyed just the action RPG, MMO-like type of aspect of it. It was just really appealing to me, everything that it had. And then once I got into actually raiding, that's what really hooked me. And then I never looked back. And then, sorry, did you have a question about something else too? The community, or I forget?
Your
Well,
role.
yeah. We understand that you participate in the Destiny 2 community in some capacity. Do you
Nah.
mind expanding a little bit on that?
Yeah. Learning from other communities like Destiny Reset and RNG Cast, and great resources of just discords and clans and podcasts, and some of them were closing up, and then Hoot Dog and stuff. And I'm like, I'll just start another podcast, might as well. And had the idea to start that back with Sin originally, someone I had been playing with, rating a lot of Wrath of the Machine and Destiny 1, and then we moved to Destiny 2. And I'm like, why not start a podcast and a community? And just like Guardian Down, I didn't have any expectations that it would grow or have many people. It was mostly the podcast. I'm like, okay, we'll create a Discord channel also. And then a couple buds from Destiny Reset I invited over, and then it just grew from there. And once you kind of get into these Destiny communities of podcasting, and also one of my big things was always, we'll have guests from time to time, but I'm really big about keeping a pulse on the Destiny community podcasters. So obviously I know when like you guys are starting up or other podcasts are starting up, I keep a list. Destiny 2 podcast, or destinypodcasts.com actually is the domain. And so I really love dealing with all the sister podcast communities.
That's awesome. I'm going to check that out. Destiny Podcast. You said destinypodcast.com?
Destinypodcasts.com.
Okay. Gotcha.
Appreciate you. Thank you very much for that. Mr. Des Raven, Would you also mind just telling us a little bit about yourself and perhaps elaborating a little bit on your role in the Destiny 2 community, my friend?
Well, hello. I'm Raven. I'm a Cancer. I enjoy long walks on the beach. Seriously. Um, but no, in all seriousness, yeah, I'm Raven. I don't know. I'm a guy. I have bold and I guess sweeping opinions that I like to stick to, and that's kind of both a little bit about me and kind of my role in the community. To be that a-hole that yells at clouds in the sky, apparently.
No, that's Gator. Yells at clouds in the skies.
Uh, I mean, sometimes
Des
it feels
is your Des is your angry anime profile.
right. Um, but no, I guess I kind of coined a something of a descriptor of me, following with the bird theme because being Raven, I am a bird of many feathers but very few tones. So, because I don't know, I have a very somewhat different, I guess, way of thinking of things. That just doesn't like exist too much, like just in to be honest, to be just in content creation in general. I just have a, like I said, a very different, I guess, view on how things quote unquote should be. Henceforth, angry old man yelling at the clouds bit. But yeah, so that's kind of my claim, my temperance, and it's who I am. I'm a
And
dude.
hey, we welcome the difference of opinions here. You know, it's we understand everybody's opinions are going to be different, but we respect them here. So we
Mhm.
explore those things.
Yes, that is
Uh,
definitely one aspect I also definitely try to like adhere to because I love, like, this is no joke. I actually love debating. I love picking
Mhm.
apart people's opinions just to see why they think, X, Y, or Z. Maybe I can understand something a little more if I can just pick at it just a little bit and, peel back that layer, so to speak. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. That's I'm similar in that aspect of like not sitting there and being very argumentative with people, but trying to see their way and their form of thinking. I totally get that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And of course, it comes off as being very argumentative and dickish, which is fair because it can be perceived that way, especially on the internet. I know. But yeah.
I get you, man. Most of my family think of me as the asshole of the family, and I'm cool with it. I have
Right.
no problems with that. You're also a bit of the lore expert, I feel, within the community, from everything I've heard and listening to your guys' podcast. What is it about the lore that you really enjoy?
Oh God. See, here's the thing, because I come from a bit of MMO backgrounds. I lost many a sleepless night playing EverQuest. Um,
Hey,
Oh boy,
yeah,
heard about
I've
that.
played
yeah,
EverQuest too. I never played the
yeah.
first one. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. Yeah. So there was at least 3, 4 months of my life, to where I averaged 3 hours of sleep a night.
Damn.
Because
Gotcha.
yeah, just because where I was working in restaurants and I had to hop off, I'd play EverQuest. I was living with some roommates, and bedtime was sunrise. Well, one of my roommates who didn't have a car at the time would wake me up at 9ish to take him to work. And so I'd take him to work, and instead of being the responsible adult and going back to sleep and you know getting ready for work, I'd hop back on and play EverQuest more. So yeah, that was my day for many months.
That's
And
a
cat naps,
true gamer right there. True gamer.
right? So to circle all that back around, and having like a background in just RPGs in general, I like story. I even like the world building story, which especially a lot of early like D1 vanilla lore was essentially just world building. There were some people back in the day that could like pick it apart and predict things. That wasn't me. I just enjoyed the stories. But no, it's the Grimoire cards. I read through them a lot because it was a lot to unpack. A lot of it was very vague, and a lot of it was very new. Almost none of it connected until I started unlocking the Grimoire for Thorn and the Last Word. And all of a sudden, it's like, wait, these pieces are like connecting to one another. So this is like a story across like several Grimoire cards. And that's what just kind of hooked me in and like started really looking at things a little deeper in Destiny. Just that interaction and dynamic between those two guns. And yeah, I've I've been reading deep ever since. No pun intended.
That's cool, man. It really is. I just recently started getting into the lore and actually looking at the Ishtar Collective, which I think you guys were talking about on your last episode as
Mhm.
well, and how a lot of people didn't realize it's an actual thing. Well, I was one of those people. I thought it was just a website that
Right.
has stuff on there. I didn't know it was actually in the game. So that was pretty cool to listen to. All right,
Yeah.
we'll swing it.
Guilty as hell.
Yeah. I didn't even hear about it until recently. Till we were talking about it, Sweaty, when you were talking about possibly doing that on the show as well, lore readings. So yeah, I was like, cool, man, I gotta check this shit out. And I started reading the first one, the Book of Sorrow, and I was like,
Mm,
yo, this is amazing. I love this.
yeah.
I can't wait for a show to come out on Destiny. All
Right.
right.
Yeah.
But swinging it back to the questions, let's go with this
Yes.
next one. Going back to you, Kingsley. How did
Hmm.
you get your start in gaming? I know you guys kind of touched a little bit already. I know we got
Yeah.
EverQuest 2, and then what about for you? What was your start in gaming?
Well, I don't really remember exactly how it started. If my parents, I was lucky enough, they heard about things and they presented something to me, or if I asked about it as a young kid. But I was pretty darn young because I remember growing up with, and this was rare for my age also in like the early 80s, but my dad got some of the first personal computers. My grandparents got like those little, like, they weren't Game Boy type things, but they were like from Japan. You couldn't even get them in the US yet when they would travel, and they would come back and they're like these little handheld. They had one game only on them. Fun little
Mm,
things you could play on. And then the very first video game system we had was the ColecoVision. It was about the time of the original Atari and Commodore and all that. And these old archaic controllers. And then I don't know. I feel like maybe my dad or grandparents heard about this system. I remember my dad playing a little bit too, but he never got too much into video games. And then, but it really hit off the original NES and Super Mario Brothers and all those games, and just kind of took off from there. I had a lot of different systems through my childhood growing up, and laptops and computers and things like that. And then when I went off to college, other than a couple occasional games like Diablo and stuff, and then starting a family, got out of it for a little bit, mostly just because of um, being busy, having young kids. My current wife at the time didn't like video games. That's not why we're divorced, by the way, but still, she's just crazy about all sorts of things. But I didn't even try to do much with video gaming in early adult life, and then eventually got back into, I think, PS2 or PS3, and then got all the new systems as they came along, and then eventually into PC gaming again and Destiny. And just, I've always enjoyed technology and the aspects of gaming. Oh, when I was young, I loved going to arcade centers. Here's how it would work most of the time. I mean, occasionally we could like talk my parents into it, or if we're at the Pizza Hut and they had the little Pac-Man arcade game in the lobby. But going to like legit arcade centers, not the new generation ones that we have these days, but the old school generation ones, they were often in like CD local like pizza joints, and they would have like 5 arcades, stand-up arcade systems in the back. And so I'd have so much fun staying the night at my grandparents' house, and she would save up this jar of quarters for me. And then it was always a tradition. The first night I came over, we'd go to the pizza joint. They loved that pizza also. We'd order a pizza, and we're waiting for them to cook it. She would just sit and read a book on the benches and give me a bunch of quarters and let me play to my heart's content for an hour or so video games back in the arcade, and then come home and have pizza. Good times.
Sounds awesome. That's a great memory right
Mhm.
there. I could picture it as you were saying it. And Des,
Yeah.
what about yourself? How did you get your start in gaming?
Unlike Kingsley, it's hard to pin down like an exact answer of exactly what got me into gaming. I'm a little younger than Kingsley, just a little. But I don't know, just like a lot of the same stuff. Like one of the earliest memories I have from childhood. Um, I was like 5-ish potentially. Um, but no, it was like just like me, my mom, my sister, potentially my brother. I don't know. But anyway, we were just sitting around the TV, and my sister had an Atari, so we were just all playing like Miss Pac-Man or whatever. One of the Pac-Man games, but yeah, we're just all sitting there like having a good time, like just playing Pac-Man. And being a child of the '90s, arcades being what they were, of course. I mean, um, see, growing up in Alabama, lived in Montgomery, which is like the second largest city in Alabama. But my mom used to work in a restaurant across from, like, within the same parking lot as the mall, or one of the malls. So there would be days where Dad would take a quick break from work, pick me up, drop me off at the mall with like $5 or $10, and I would have until Mom got off to come and pick me up, and that was like the babysitter essentially. Was just the Aladdin's Castle arcade in the mall. So a variety of freaking games that just munched quarters and stuff, and I had a Nintendo as a kid. Um, I had friends with like Segas and crap. So I mean, it's been a very large part of my life for a very long time.
That's awesome. That kind of like Pokemon has been a part of my life for so long, so I could kind of like relate in a sense.
Oh, and of course, another thing that hilariously got me into gaming was actually Dungeons and Dragons.
Mhm.
My brother, 12 years older than me, had come back from the Navy, and while in the Navy, he got into Dungeons and Dragons. So me as like a 6, 7 year old something or at that time, here I am like freaking learning to roll characters and crap, and like just messing around with stuff that him and a friend would come up with. Is actually the link to why I enjoy RPGs now, like their stories and stuff. So that's another like knowing that it's like, oh hey, I can play this D&D-esque thing, uh, on gaming. It's like cool, because anyone that's played the original Final Fantasy One knows that game was a ripoff of D&D, kind of hilariously. So yeah.
So moving into our next question, Kingsley, what are some of your other hobbies besides gaming?
Nothing. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, gaming in my work life keeps me pretty busy for not much time or interest in other things. And my work life, since I run a business that I enjoy, it's not really considered work. I have a hobby of learning all things technology, integrating stuff. I run a computer consulting business, more specifically as a high-end certified Apple consultant. So I go into companies, help with anything with purchasing decisions, integrating, networking. I'll do high-end networking in their offices and anything to get their systems working. And to me, that is fun, keeping up to date with it, always learning new things. So I am always like, even though my active work during the week could be as low as like 10 to 20 hours of like a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, it's not really, because I'm researching things in the evening on the weekend, kind of having fun, but also like researching issues that customers are having. And so that keeps me busy when I'm not gaming. Um, I do enjoy checking out places like arts, food places, going to concerts, musicals, things like that. Haven't done it as much lately. And I really enjoy traveling, a lot driving around. There's a lot of beautiful mountains in this area and national parks, cool back roads you can take through like just beautiful mountain scenery and everything, and really exploring different areas. And that's a cool interest of mine too. Maybe going on some hikes here and there. But yeah, those kind of few things right there are most of the things I like doing.
Very good, very good. Des, what are some of your hobbies outside of gaming, if I may ask?
Hobbies outside of gaming. Those things exist.
Barely.
3 hours of sleep,
Right.
remember? Yeah, say that again. 3 hours of sleep.
Average. But no, uh, I've been into comics, most specifically, of course, Marvel comics.
Mhm.
Um, and of course now Marvel movies are my jam because I don't know, I just like the stories. I mean, it's one thing that got me into Marvel comics even as a kid is Marvel wasn't afraid, or I suppose I should say, Stan Lee and the people he inspired that followed along in many like X-Men and such publications. They featured like a lot of diverse people, and Marvel was not afraid of having very different superhero ideas. Like one of the prime points of the Fantastic Four is the fact that they're essentially a family unit that are like struggling to pay their bills while they go out and save the world. So I mean, it's a very interesting like thing that's always like captured me, in comic books and stuff. And of course, thanks to my brother, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd as well. Um, so that's a thing. Um, Sadly, it's not a lot of hobbies I continue these days. But I do attempt to write. By saying that, I've been attempting to write a published work for probably the past 20 years. So here's hoping it'll actually stick someday.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you do, I want a signed copy, bro. I want first edition signed copy, just in case it blows up.
Right.
Same.
Send you my address.
Same.
All right, so I did ask you guys like how you got your start in gaming, but how did you get your start in Destiny? Like how was what was the beginning thing? What made you? A lot of people jumped over. I know from like Halo, it's a Bungie game. They want to jump in. What's your guys' story? Starting with you, Kingsley.
Yeah, this is a funny story. I'd known about Destiny a little bit, and but it wasn't interesting to me, looking to me at first. I wasn't sure what it was. I actually known about the company Bungie for a long time. They started as a Mac only based company for games back with Marathon and Myth, and then I know how they got bought out by or I don't know the right term. They teamed up with Microsoft and stuff and made the Halo games. And the Halo games were never as interesting to me because I'm not much of a competitive PvP shooter type. And I know there was campaign aspects too, but I didn't have an Xbox and everything. And then the Destiny game was coming out. I think I'd seen a few things about it here and there, but what I saw never looked too interesting to me. And I might have only also seen like PvP aspects. So funny enough, I started Taken King, so about a year-ish after Destiny came out, and it was the Christmas after Taken King came out that my wife got it for me as a Christmas present because she went to Best Buy and she was asking them, hey, what's a fun video game to get my husband? And they recommended Destiny. They said, be sure to get the expansion with the Taken King, the latest update that came out. She gave it to me for Christmas. I'm like, thanks. But I was kind of like, I don't know. I didn't even pop it in until like February afterwards before I first booted it up.
Wow.
Because I really didn't, again, think I was into this game. I didn't know what it was. And also, I'd never really been into, I knew it was also multiplayer. And again, I didn't really understand the PvE multiplayer aspect. And I'm like, I don't know, what's this game? And then I popped it in February and did a couple campaign missions like, oh, holy crap, I like this. What is this game? This is a lot of fun. And of course, the gunplay was amazing. in the PvE aspects. I pushed through the campaign so fast. I loved it all. I saw how you could get help with other players and do these things. And then raids, I'm like, what's this raid? It says you have to have 6 people. That's annoying. And it doesn't auto match make you. I tried going down to like Volta Glass or Crota's End. Like, oh man, I have to find like 6 randos. How am I going to do that? And eventually I started finding people, and eventually the Destiny Reset podcast. And once I did my first raid, which was King's Fall, because everyone was running that at the time because it was the newest one, I was hooked. And so never looked back with all that. So kind of funny how my wife, she jokes sometimes, I should never introduce that game to you.
I think all of our wives say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All
kind of
right.
funny how that started.
And then for you, Des, what got you into Destiny?
Not nearly as interesting as the story, hilariously. I don't know. I don't even remember how I first heard about Destiny. Unless it was potentially the hype around when the open beta started. Because I heard it was potentially E3 of that year that because I was watching, I would watch E3 from time to time, and like I said, seeing Destiny, it's like, okay, this looks interesting. Oh, it's Bungie. I recognize Bungie. I've been a PlayStation guy because I mean I'm not a shooter dude. I've been following Final Fantasy like most of my gaming career, so wherever Final Fantasy was, that's the system I stuck with, and just happened to be PlayStation. But a friend of mine did have an Xbox 360, and while we were, let's say, enjoying substances, we would all just like chill out and like play Halo 2 on his 360. So I knew how it felt. I knew a little how the campaign went, and Halo's interesting. And I ended up buying it on one of my PCs when it came out for PC, the original Halo, that is. It's like I said, I was familiar with Halo and how that worked and felt, and this seemed like an interesting idea. It was from Bungie, and it's like, okay, cool. So the open beta keys were being passed out, which of course had the caveat back then. It's hilarious being able to say back then now for Destiny. But with the caveat that you had to pre-order the game. I wasn't that sold on Destiny, so I didn't pre-order it. But I was in this streamer community. I also had just recently basically found Twitch at that point in time. And I was in this The Last of Us like multiplayer stream community thing. And one of the people in that streamer's chat streamed from time to time. His name was Keydet Car. And he was going to raffle off a couple of the open beta keys. And I had told him, it's like, oh man, I'm kind of interested to try that. I was like, didn't you pre-order? I'm like, no. I was like, oh man, I'm going to give this key to you and I'll raffle off the other one. I'm like, cool. So I ended up getting in on the open beta thanks to him. And I did everything. And by everything, my wife's sitting here nodding, I legitimately did everything in that open beta. I got to a point, I made like, because it was possible to make like 6 characters. So I made a character of every like gender, subclass, species, and like played through up until Sepix on all of them. I had gotten good enough to where I could solo the Sepix Prime Strike from start to finish. So yes, I knew I was hooked from that. My wife would wake up and like, "You're still playing that game?" Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Shooting Sepix in his big dumb eye again.
Awesome. Okay, so now there's been a question that I've been asking our guests for the past few weeks. And Kingsley, I know that you had an interest in this particular question. And Des, I'll say that I'm also quite interested into hearing your unique perspective and insights regarding said question. However, let's just start with the question itself. So Bungie releases a new toggle option, hypothetically, in the settings menu to opt in for open cross-platform I'm gonna say not even just in PvP, just in general, actually, with the intention of giving you a wider player pool. With the point of it being a toggle switch, you can either enable or disable it at your will to have complete open cross platform, or simply stick to the pools of your system of choice. Do you ever foresee yourself enabling this option, or furthermore, leaving it enabled? Kingsley, let's start with you and see what you think there.
Yeah. Well, we have to remember in PvE, it already is crossplay automatically. So if you do strikes and stuff, I believe it'll put you in the whole population, right?
Mhm.
For Xbox, PlayStation. So, yeah, for PvP aspect, I would turn it on. I actually think they, and you might say, well, it's easy for you to say that you don't PvP much, but I think it would really help. Here's the thing: they should have it on by default, but have the option for people to toggle it off. Too many
Mhm.
people are worried and complain about like playing against PC players and stuff. And I think we just need to get to the point where we just kind of move past that and just everyone gets in a big pool. Eventually things will work out. It'll help with population levels. And again, maybe have the option, but then we kind of fine tuned it. Okay, maybe it's not so much we have to say like PC versus consoles, because even in consoles, you can get a little bit of a difference between a PS5 and a PS4.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah.
funny thing is, people don't even mention that all the time. There aren't PS4 people complaining like, "Oh, I have to play against the PS5 players," you know.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
maybe what they should do, I heard one of the game does this, is just on input selections. So like you can turn off if you don't want to play against mouse and keyboard. So all controllers versus mouse and keyboard. And believe it or not, a lot of people do. I mean, sure, it's a smaller majority, but I do, and I know other people that do, and even some really good players will play controller on PC at times. So maybe just have that as an option. Just turn off. Again, it should be on by default, but if people really don't want it on, then you can turn off. Say like, well, don't play against the mouse and keyboard players.
Yeah, exactly. I totally couldn't agree more. Mr. Dez, would you mind leading us
Mhm.
through your Alice in Wonderland unique thought process behind said ridiculous question?
It is a ridiculous question, but I love it. No, as far as like turning it on or leaving it on, hilariously, I definitely do have thoughts on this. There is things, there are controversies, of course, because as people know, there are different skill sets that you can use on keyboard and mouse. Also, definitely talking like from a PvP perspective, a PvP perspective. Because in PvE, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't know. Um, but no, there are like certain, like I said, differing skill sets that a keyboard and mouse player will have in PvP, or different tools to their disposal. But I would probably still 100% leave it on, even if it did not separate input types or anything. I would probably potentially leave it on,
Mhm.
just from my own personal thing. I know where my skill level's at. I run hot, I run cold, but I'm average, I'll say. Um, but here's the thing. I mean, your average keyboard and mouse player and your average like controller player, there aren't that many differences between. And I'm a huge mind game, like mental state individual, and like thought processes and thinking through things. Shocker, I know. Um, but yeah, there's sure they can have like skill or like mechanical um advantages, but that doesn't matter because a good like mental game can entirely shut down marginal differences and mechanical advantages.
Mhm.
It's far more important. And you can learn to play against it. I mean, that just goes to show I guess the real hot take of my opinion, the importance of skill-based matchmaking, people. Turn it on. Leave it on. Use skill-based matchmaking. Cowards. God. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree with both of you on that. I would definitely leave it on. I think
That's what I was
that's
gonna
important.
say. I wasn't sure if I'd heard from you yet, Native, if you had a big opinion on it one way or the other. I know
Uh,
Sweaty was on our side, but
Yeah, no, I would definitely have it on. I think that no matter the input, the game is there. One has
Mhm.
an advantage, the other one has another advantage. Like there's advantages and disadvantages to both, and
Indeed.
I think Bungie does a good job at making that noticeable as far as like the compatibility of playing against others. Yeah, keyboard and
yeah.
mouse, they're gonna have that quicker turnaround and all that kind of stuff. But controller players do have some advantages as well. Me, I'm a controller player. I'm Xbox
Yeah.
the entire time. So, and
Uh-huh.
Sweaty is PC. And like I
Hey.
see advantages in each, and I see disadvantages in each. I think Bungie just
Indeed.
does a good job at balancing it.
Yeah. And again, input types aren't even controversies that are unique to shooters. Input types have actually been, as far as like which one is better, because of course your elitists are going to say keyboard and mouse is better, and potentially at the absolute highest pinnacle of skill, keyboard and mouse will probably end up being better. But
I'm gonna grind to that top pinnacle spot on controller. That's
well,
my goal.
like I said, it's like that because to be fair, keyboard and mouse will allow you to flourish far better at that like top pinnacle spot.
I think it depends on the environment and the weapon that you're using. Let's say in a trial scenario, if you're like, and even Lego LaFlash has confirmed this, especially with Cami Cakes, was that let's say you're a fusion rifle main. I'm thinking of my good friend Marky Merc from the Potato Thumbs
I like that too
podcast,
when I PvP. Mhm.
right? So it's confirmed that you're actually at a disadvantage on your input device being a mouse and keyboard, specifically if you're using a fusion rifle, because you're not getting that reticle friction that you intrinsically would have on a controller. So, and Lego kind of goes into that and explains like there's a specific reason, like he can still play on PC lobbies and things like that. And he's quite confident in his ability, but he specifically chooses not to use M&K because of that lack of reticle friction.
Yeah,
So he chooses controller for that purpose.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And I do believe that's like I said, that's a balance. This is like a beautiful balancing job that I believe Bungie has made between the two input
Mhm.
types. Because there definitely aren't that many games uh, that separate like to that detail by input type. At least I don't believe. Of course, it's been a long time since I've checked. But no, like I said, but input type battles. I mean, they've existed in fighting games now for a very long time.
Mhm.
Because now or at least back in the day, probably around Street Fighter 4-ish, you had a lot of players coming up, and like a lot of pro players coming up that never played on a fight stick. They've always played on gamepad. But anytime like before Street Fighter 4, you like listen to fighting game advice, play on a fight stick. It's just going to be better. You're going to be at a more advantage. But now you're having this generation of people that are getting so good on a regular controller that they're beating out these kids carrying around these 20-pound freaking fight sticks to their tournaments. So I mean, are there advantages to a fight stick? 1,000,000% yes. Does that really matter in the end? Probably not so much.
Playing Diablo 4, it's the first game that's brought me back to mouse and keyboard for a while. Diablo tends to do really well on mouse and keyboard, and that's what I grew up with. And I know you can
Yeah.
do controller also, but I'm having to get work my muscles differently again. I'm so used to doing controller, and now I'm like keeping my hand and wrist and arm on a table with the mouse, and it's like using a different set of muscles. I know this sounds hilarious, but like in the wrist, it's like, oh boy, doing mouse and
Yeah,
keyboard
yeah,
again.
We
yeah.
should do
I also
a gamer's like physical training program of some sort,
right,
to work those unique muscles, because I mean it's
right.
true. There are unique muscles you use as a gamer.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, not even just as a gamer, just in general.
Yeah.
Because being like working in manufacturing, like a lot now, I tend to like stand in one place, do a thing, maybe take a couple steps here and there. But I like staying in a place. I got to working in a warehouse, which was more mobile. You're actually going in like fetching items. At first, I thought I'll be fine. I've been in manufacturing for like 6 years at this point in time. I'll be fine, dude. Let me tell you, there's a whole different set of muscles you're working when you're walking actively, and not just standing there and maybe you think you're being active, but no, you're not. Like be straight up active, and you'll find out.
No, that is accurate, man. I went from being in the army for 10 years to a desk job, and my back was killing
Oh
me
God,
sitting down all the
yes,
time. Like it was
right,
terrible. My back was just trashed every night.
yeah.
But okay, moving on to the next question. You guys have some very unique gamer tags. One sounds like royalty. The other one kind of sounds like some kind of evil warlord or something like that. But
Ooh, I like
I'm curious about your guys' gamer tags. Like, where did they come from?
that.
So my
That's
gamer
what I
tag forever
say.
was MC Kingsley because growing up,
McKingsley,
yeah, and everyone called me McKingsley, like McKingsley, like an Irish thing or whatever. But the people that knew
guilty.
me knew it was MC Kingsley. And you know what started from? A lot of people that were getting into computers and the internet at my age, it was common to have your username as like your initials or something. So that was my name was Michael Christopher Kingsley. So I did MC Kingsley. Plus, it was a little joke. I liked some friends and I's liked just different types of music, and I'm like, yeah, if I ever maybe I'll become a DJ or MC at some point later on. But it was easy to use those initials. Um, I got to the point when I started playing with other people, most specifically Destiny, that McKingsley or MC Kingsley was starting to become a little bit annoying, and a lot of people were just calling me Kingsley. Okay, so I'm like, when they let you do the cross-play or change names, or I forget what it was, I'm like, I'm actually going to change my name. And I was thought about this for a while, and everyone was calling me Kingsley, but Kingsley by itself was too boring and not unique enough. Kingsley was already taken. So I kind of had gone a little bit with Kingsley Mac Consulting for my business because, doing Mac consulting for computers and stuff. And also had a friend in college that called me Kingsley Mac Daddy. So it was like a play on multiple things. I'm like, I'm going to go with Kingsley Mac. And most people just call me Kingsley anyways. And Kingsley Mac was perfect because it wasn't taken anywhere. And I forget how long it's been now. It's probably been a good 4 years or so. But now I'm just Kingsley Mac everywhere instead. I still have a little bit of MC Kingsley here and there, but not for like gaming stuff, really.
In the spirit of Sin Media, you've heard of the Muffin Man, but have you heard of Mac Daddy?
Kingsley Mac here.
Return of the Mac. Let's go.
Yep.
Shout out to Sin Media, also a part of the Guardian Hub, and his favorite slogan is to do with being magical. So make sure to check out for him as well. He's great folk.
Yeah, he couldn't make it tonight due to he often works later and has a long drive back home. But shout out to him. He's here in spirit.
Always.
And you, Des, your gamer tag.
You ready for story time?
Let's
see.
do it.
This is definitely my story time. All right. So my gamer tag, I have actually had since my PlayStation 3, because I ended up getting Mortal Kombat 9 and decided to play online. So of course I needed to make the PSN, do all this, all that. So I decided to construct, which, all right. So the desk part of the name is completely different from Raven. The desk part of the name is actually initials DS, or I guess more accurately an acronym DES, which is a play on like one of the first nicknames I had gotten while gaming, because I used to really enjoy like Unreal Tournament back when I was playing PC, because it really didn't have a story. It was just you can set up an arena with a bunch of bots and you can just kill time for a while, and that was like my stress relief after working a shift in restaurants at times. So my roommates, as previously mentioned, because it was around this era, just before EverQuest really took over. So they witnessed me like just hopping around with dual pistols, murdering bots left and right, until one got lucky enough to actually kill me. To which I then activated all guns, all ammo, equipped the minigun, found that one bot, killed it, kept it suspended against the wall until the entire 999 rounds of the minigun were expended, before going back to normal and going back to the pistols and just hopping around killing bots. So one of my roommates saw this and he's like, "Man, it's like you got a death switch." Ding. So that is that part of the name, shortened from Death Switch, which also hilariously, being into Yu-Gi-Oh, DES is basically the romanization of how the Japanese say death with desu. So death just fit. And then Raven, breath time. Okay. Came from, if anyone's been on the internet for long enough in the early 90s, perhaps you've come across people that used to do what I used to call persona role playing, which if you were in chat rooms and such, and like had people playing out these anime characters or whatever. Yeah, I was part of that crowd. Hi. But my own character was an OC, let's say, of Vaniel Defanel, who for a time was a mercenary that went under the code name Raven, which was stolen wholesale from Tekken because Raven's line of being the Black Talon of Death was just so cool. And so my character was that, and thus Raven.
I like
yeah.
it.
That's
Yeah,
a story.
that's awesome.
All right, we have one last question left for our interview. And once we get through this question, we'll take a quick break. And whenever we come back, we'll dive into our show topic. We'll hit the TWAB break. Well, Raider will hit the TWAB with us right quick and walk us through that. We'll go through our community questions and a few various announcements, and then we'll be closing it out from there. So, last question. I would call this section the Wheel of Misfortune. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
You sound
So
excited.
I mean, I think so. Yeah. That's what I meant.
All right, so Wheel of Misfortune is this pretend scenario that I paint, if you will, in order to highlight a weapon within your vault to see if we can produce some sort of a story from it. Sometimes there's a story, sometimes there isn't. Other times it's a challenge. In the case of Kill a Monkey, please delete my stuff from my vault, he says. In that case, we became Dado's vault cleaning service that day. Anywho,
All right.
Wheel of Misfortune. What are the rules? So every item on the wheel is a single item stored within your vault, but it is restricted to weapons only. Once we spin the wheel, whichever weapon it lands on gets instantly deleted from your vault, in loose quotes, hypothetically. Now, of course, with that being said, usually most people have that one legacy weapon that they want to protect the most, the storyteller, if you will. So with that being said, I enable you the power to only save just one in your vault. Is there any that you have a preference that you would like to save? Mr. Kingsley Mack, let's start with you.
No, sorry to disappoint you there.
Hey.
Weapons, okay. I have a whole attitude about this, but no, I don't have any legacy weapons that I'm going to get sad about if any get deleted. That is the truth, so I'm just giving you that answer.
Very good. And Mr. Dez, what about you, my friend?
I have gained certain attachments to certain weapons. But if I could save one one weapon in my entire vault, it would have to actually hilariously probably be the service regime.
Okay. I'm
Awesome.
intrigued.
It's just that it's not even a gun that I have like an interesting story with. I don't remember where I first got it. I don't remember how long I've had it in Destiny 1. But let's just say that despite in Destiny 1 it being the king of auto rifles for a solid month, until auto rifle just in general got nerfed into the absolute dirt.
Yeah.
So despite that, so again, like the first month, probably 2-ish of Destiny, it was hot. But then it was, you were dumb for using it. By the time Taken King came out, a year later, they did this whole recap of, oh, what's your Guardian, like, what's your most used exotic or weapon type or interesting stats for your Guardians? My most used exotic on my Hunter was still Suros Regime.
And
I
I'll give
don't
you an
even know
answer
why.
too. I was thinking about Destiny 1, but those weapons, the very first legendary I got was Down and Out hand cannon. It was so much more powerful than everything else, so I love that weapon. But for Destiny 2, I will go with Sunshot.
Okay. All right. Now that we have our selection, I'm gonna kind of describe to you guys how we do this. Now, it does require dim. Do you guys happen to have dim handy by chance?
Thanks for telling us ahead of time. No, just kidding. But I do
Uh,
have Dim ready.
I was about to say I have Ishtar Commander open right now, but I can open Dim if you're
I,
gonna
I,
be
I
that
do
particular.
depend on a mechanic within dim, which is why I specifically say dim.
I got Dim ready
Uh,
if you want to start with me.
I can look it
yeah,
up.
sure. So once you got dim open, let's make sure you have an open spot in your kinetic, your primary, secondary, and your heavy slot. You're gonna need it. Now,
Okay, one moment. For
mhm.
secondary, I don't have it empty right now. Shoot. Come on, man. Now I got to think about. I got to bring this back afterwards. Okay, I'll do that. Okay. Now I have an
And the
open slot
reason
on
for
all three.
this is because we're going to be at random pulling a weapon from your vault into a slot. So
Yeah,
we just
yeah.
want to
So we
make
have
sure
to
we have
know.
the room
Yep,
for it.
I am
So
ready.
in order for us to do this, if I'm looking at dim, where it has, like, for example, hunter for me, Kingsley, I would imagine for you it's warlock, and then it has your
Hmm.
light level. There's a little dark spot to the far right with three dots. We click on that and we scroll to
Hmm.
the very bottom. And what we're going to notice is randomize loadout. And if
Okay.
we click on weapons only, that'll give us a primary, secondary, and a heavy random weapons. So let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. So click OK. It
Now, in
says
order to
randomize your
isolate a
equipped weapons.
Yes, perfect. Now, in order to isolate it down from there, I'm going to choose a random number generator here between 1 and 3, 1 being a primary, 2 being secondary, 3 being your heavy. And in this case, we roll a number 2. So, what did you roll for your energy weapon?
Now, was this only weapons that were in my vault though? So it would never pick what was in my inventory. I could have just kept those as saved items.
I
I'm
think
finding
it's
the
like
holes in your
everything that you
logic
have.
here, Sweaty. Sorry, what did you say? Secondary?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is hilarious. It actually brought over Sunshot. I'm not lying. And I have that
Wow.
as a safety one. So next.
Look at that. So, you can re-roll in that case.
Oh, do I have to pull all these out first before I re-roll? Probably.
If you want to, yeah, yeah, probably.
If I want to, or do I have to? I think I have to, right? If I want to.
I suppose so. I was gonna say I don't make the rules, but I suppose I kinda did, didn't I?
Yeah, you got to know the edge cases here, Sweaty. All right. Weapons only randomized loadout. Okay. What are you going to pick? 1, 2, or 3?
Alright, so random number generator, let's go number 3 this time, so it's gonna pick a heavy.
All right. I am getting rid of Taipan. Ooh, and that's a pretty good one to get rid of. Is this really that random? I feel like it's only bringing over weapons that I use often. But anyways, yeah, this is what I used like all last few seasons, for boss DPS, the Taipan with triple tap firing line. So
Ooh,
doesn't matter this season as much, but it was the boss DPS weapon for many, many seasons.
yes, it certainly was, wasn't it? It sure
Hmm.
was.
But I wouldn't be sad because if this was the case, because there's other fusion or linear fusions that are good enough, and right now there's probably a different meta, anyways.
Yeah,
Certainly
yeah.
with Typing being craftable.
Linears are on the back shaft now, I feel.
Cool.
Mr. Des Raven, are you ready and prepared for the Wheel of Misfortune?
All right, so I am in dim. I'm
Awesome.
here. What do I do?
Okay, so in dim, where I'm assuming you're a hunter, correct? So it'll have like your
Mhm.
hunter light level. There will be 3 dots on the far right. If you click that, it'll give you a drop down menu. We'll go to the very bottom. You're going to notice where it has randomized loadout. However,
There we
we are only going to select weapons only.
Yep.
Perfect. So
Random
RNG
energy.
generator, generate number. We got a number 2, making that an energy weapon.
Hang on. Energy weapon, randomized. Loading. Oh, man. Wait, no, what? That wasn't it, was it? Whoa, what are you doing? Dim, stop. Stop. Thank you. Stop. Thank you. That's my retraced path. Oh. Oh, it's fine. It's a crappy one. All right, we're good.
Wait, I was assuming
Still
it
had
was
a
the
couple
whole
of those.
weapon though. No Taipans or no repaste trass, or just this roll.
Oh, wait. Pardon? I
I
thought
was
you were asking
assuming when
Des.
you
Sorry about
guys
that.
no, I'm asking you. This is like none of the weapon at all, right? Not just the roll. Or what do you
Yeah,
say?
no.
Yeah.
Oh, none of that weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, that's fine.
Well, no. The RNG thing is basically to select or highlight the random weapon that was chosen, and
Yeah. Yep.
technically that would have been the delete, if you will.
Yep. So no Taipans at all for me, and yep.
Yeah, no,
There you got it.
yeah, I didn't use retrace path enough to make a connection to it, so that would be a easy one to. Ooh, actually, it's a good thing it's not my primary because I do like practices still. Which I mean, it's been a while since I've been able to play Destiny, but so my vault is a little outdated anyway, so it's fine. But anyway, but no, I do like practice though, so I did dodge a bullet, and my heavy was Leviathan's Breath. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
as
that would
much as
do it.
I want to love that weapon, I just hadn't at the time found love for some weapon.
Speaking of which, did they talk on that? Because I know that their podcast hasn't released yet, the GDC. But have they done that? The Gator and Hazel with the Leviathan's Breath versus the Anarchy? I know that was a thing that
No.
they were talking about.
I'm on their latest episode. We recorded last night, which will be coming out. We didn't talk about it all. And no one really knows yet. As always, we know it's really good for burst DPS. But from what I understand, the actual wording originally was what's going to be the meta for like raids. I really doubt it will be.
Yeah.
And then Hazel made the mistake of just comparing Anarchy with Leviathan's Breath. Leviathan's Breath will probably win, but the original discussion was, will Leviathan's Breath be the weapon to use for boss DPS? Probably not. I mean, the new raid, just preview without getting that whole conversation, you can use Leviathan's Breath, you can use sidearms, Rat Kings. It's kind of easy. He has a low health pool. So that's not the question of is Leviathan's Breath good enough? It's the question of will it be the main meta still? Now, the numbers were higher than some people were expecting, but I really doubt it'll pump up the most of any option.
I do want to see like the full 6 stack in the raid on the planetary encounter and see what Leviathan's Breath does with all 6 people running it.
Well, again, this boss isn't the best to test it on as far as like make him go down quick. He'll go down quick with it for sure. But if you want to see total DPS, it'd be interesting to test on some other places. So people were doing Rat King, all 6 Rat Kings on contest mode and bringing them down.
I heard about that.
Very good. Well, listeners, that just about wraps up the interview portion of episode 9. So we are going to get into the show topic of the week right after this. You know what, Ryder? You know what I was thinking, man?
What's that?
Well, I was just sitting here and I was just kind of thinking to myself, maybe we should start a clan. Like, I don't know. Do you think that's too wild of an idea?
I don't think so. I think people would love it, and I know I would love it.
Yeah, well, why don't we give them a short description of what we're about? So, the Blueberry Lounge podcast is starting a clan. The founder's playlist of choice is PvP. However, we hope to build a community centered around an improvement mindset within all of the game's facets. With this, we hope to build an approachable environment where you may even schedule specific events from raids, trials, GMs, or even private matches.
And what sets us apart from other Destiny 2 clans, you might ask, is although the journey is early, the Blueberry Lounge is part of a clan alliance known as the Owl Sector Alliance. With this alliance, we not only have the support of, but also support 4 other clans, and we offer a bot for an internal LFG with these folks. It's really amazing. It's called the 100.io, and you'll be connected with the following communities: Guardian Downcast, 2 Titans and a Hunter, the Guardian Hub, and Potato Thumbs.
Now, most of us folks are parents or adults, but I mean, we do got some young bucks showing us up in the Crucible. And Mr. Jealous from the Guardian Downcast, I'm looking at you, brother. Blueberry Lounge also offers scrims, some focus scrims, and we are currently adding a Destiny 2 Jeopardy event.
So please join us. All are welcome. We're happy to teach and especially learn. We're all about the improvement focus process.
Thank you for your time, Guardians, and cheers.
Yeah. Oh, Sin gonna sneak in there. Think they'll care. I assume he means that.
He is more than welcome.
Yeah, he says he has about 30 minutes before a raid he's going to join.
Yep.
You should give him flack. Be like, you'd rather raid with people than join us. Well, he's here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yo, what up, what up, what up?
It's Sin Weedia here.
I don't know about all that.
Sin, you're going to raid instead of join them. I even turned down some raids tonight to join them.
Man, I didn't even know I was going to be home this late.
We see where your priorities are.
Listen, I rushed home. I knew I had to be here briefly. I even got Taco Bell. I got a giant Taco Bell box.
That doesn't answer the question. You're still going to turn them down and do a raid instead?
We're like mid-podcast right now.
Yeah, they're taking a little break. So they're not even hearing this. Dang it.
We're going to have it recorded.
On contraire, it's still recording.
Did you hear everything?
All right, I'm back.
Yeah.
So Sin joined, but he's not going to be here long because he'd rather raid than be part of your podcast. I actually turned down raids tonight to be part of the podcast.
Oh, I appreciate that,
give
man.
him flack. Give him flack.
It's bullshit.
It's true shit.
Is it all a lie?
It's true shit.
I even
Well, awesome. Sin, how are you doing, bro?
When you go back and listen to the recording, there's even a native raider intro in there for you.
Perfect,
yeah.
because we ran that for the intro part too. Like we made Guardian Hub take over our intro, so that's perfect.
If my mouth is full of Taco Bell, I'm sorry.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. We've also had a guest appear. In the meantime, may I please welcome to the show the Mr. Magical himself that we gave a shout out to earlier. He's joined us. It's Mr. Sin Media. How are you today, sir?
I call that the best sin on the net. I am great. I just got off work, saw the show notes come through, and I'm like, I see you have enough room in the green room. I think I'm going to just sneak on in here.
He decided to bust in like a bull in a china shop.
Hey, that's a Titan for you.
Hell yeah. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, hey, let's just do this right quick. So, Sin, what got you into Destiny, may I ask?
Oh, man. I've told this story before, but probably D1 around King's Fall, it was like kind of my first jumping into it. But I had a friend, a buddy of mine at work, let me know what Destiny was. I had it was an Xbox or the PS3, probably PS4 at the time, and played it. Didn't really play it a lot, and then came back again at Rise of Iron. Started listening to podcasts at that time, but yeah, it was all a buddy of mine at work had really gotten me into it, and I've stuck with it since.
Perfect. Well, welcome to the lounge, my friend. I'm so glad that you were able to join us for the time that you're able to be here.
Heck yeah, happy to join in and support.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Absolutely. And
All right.
Mr. Raider, my good friend, would you move us into the show topic of the week?
Yeah, so our show topic for this week, we're going to do a deep dive on the new raid, Root of Nightmares. And we're going to just break it down, talk a bunch of different things about it as much as we possibly can to really expand and show our opinions on what we think about it. There's a lot of opinions floating around there, good and bad, but let's hear from some of these professionals that we have on our show tonight. So, starting off, we'll go with you, Kingsley, first. Your initial thoughts overall on the raid as a whole.
Yes. My initial thoughts overall as a whole is I love the aesthetics. It's fun. It is new right now. I'm pretty good at judging things long term, although of how I think of this overall, which I can't give it truly a rating yet or anything, but right now, to be fair, I'm gonna have to put it somewhere in the middle. Definitely isn't top of the list, but definitely isn't like my least favorite raid, like Vault of Glass, which is my least favorite. As far as easiness, there's been a lot of discussion. It's just my quick 2 cents, and we can talk more about this later if you want more details. But it is easier than other raids as far as learning the mechanics, but you still have to execute them well, and you have to execute them fast. So that's really the differentiation of what everyone's saying. And when you talk about these top tier players, these streamers that have no clue what the real world is like an average D2 player, yes, it's easier for them. I would say this raid for top tier players and upper mid tier players, it's a lot easier. But maybe if you're not as experienced of a raider, a lower tier player, this raid could ironically almost be harder because even though you can learn the mechanics easy, there's more ads. You have to move a lot quicker. You have to do things like that. So that's a really interesting thing that I'm noticing. And but still, though, in the long run, it may be a little less of a favorite of a raid, but still having a lot of fun with it right now. So that's just my initial impressions.
All right. That's awesome. Des?
Well, I obviously can't speak from a playing perspective, but at least from watching it, it is visually gorgeous. Oh my god, it is actually a good looking raid. I like the spaces; they look nice. Lore wise, it is actually fantastic. I actually love Nezarek, considering he talks so much trash to you as you're traversing through it. It is absolutely
That
fantastic.
is fun, yeah.
Um, I will definitely probably just from what I've seen, I would definitely agree with Kingsley's rating of it being probably mid-tierish. Because as much as I thought the same thing about Deepstone Crypt, it doesn't usually rate that high with people. Even though I feel like Deepstone and this one just have a lot of in common, that a lot of it wasn't really hard to grasp, but I wouldn't necessarily call it easier. It's just different aspects. But yeah.
Okay, so that's two for mid tier. What about you, Sen? Have you played through it yet?
So I've played through half of it. I've done third and
Okay.
fourth encounter. I'm doing my full playthrough on it tonight. I did get a chance to watch a little bit of the streams day one with people going for contest mode. So I saw a little bit of what the raid was really about at that point. Just from a perspective using, third and fourth encounter, which I've enjoyed both of them. I would probably say I'm gonna agree, probably more mid-tier. The ad density on it is definitely there. So folks that are not used to that kind of ad density and getting, we'll say not from too much of a spoiler standpoint, but getting booped around by Nezarek in the fourth encounter with that particular mechanic, it is a lot. There's a lot going on, and you got a few mechanics there to play with. But with the ads coming at you in all different angles, and plus that boss mechanic, yeah, it can be a little tough for those that are not familiar with certain things in Destiny. It can be a little little off-putting there, but I would rate it mid-tier. Probably not my favorite. A lot of people know that I'm hoping for Wrath to come back during the reprise raids, and I hope it does. But I'd probably rank it mid, somewhere in the middle.
You don't have to say that just because I said it.
Well, I mean, it's
No,
my
but
it's my feeling. I mean,
yeah.
And here's the other part of it, right? Just from listening to everybody talk about it and knowing what the last two encounters are with those, the auras that you get from the orbs and connecting the lines of these orbs, right? The mechanics don't change much. I believe it was Crown where they took the original mechanic from first encounter and they built on that mechanic throughout the raid and slightly changed it in further encounters of the actual raid. This, my understanding, doesn't really change much. The mechanics are the same for the most part all the way through. Outside of Encounter 3, where you're moving the planets around, it is slightly different there, but you're not connecting those lines.
Yeah, pretty much. The only difference is the first encounter, there's only light. There's not light and dark. But the second encounter, light and dark, the last encounter, light and dark, it's the same connection aspect either way. Yep.
Right.
Sweaty, thoughts? Me and you, we ran through it not too long ago together from start to finish.
You guys
Yeah,
have it
you're
clear?
certainly correct.
Yeah.
Yay.
A
Yep,
couple clues.
I have a clear. Yep. So, okay. I'm going to set the precedence that my perspective comes from the perspective of someone who typically doesn't raid very often. However, I do at least have a clear on each raid that is available in this game. Now, I wouldn't say, this raid was my very first contest mode participation, yes. But, when I first started really trying to get into raids, that was around the Crown of Sorrow, Garden of Salvation type area. So, I'm just, like I said, that's just kind of my perspective of where I'm coming from. Now, that being said, let's move into thoughts about Root of Nightmares itself. First off, the design and the artwork. I was flabbergasted when I first loaded in there for the very first time. And the way this happened for me was I had zero plans of participating in the contest day mode. I was just hanging out at home. I had YouTube up, and I was looking forward to supporting our extended communities in their participation in the contest mode. So I found Gator's stream, and I knew that Fluffy was in there, and basically our extended communities all together in one team. Mr. Monkey was also in there, and I apologize for the rest of the fire team if I can't remember everyone right off the top of the noggin. But, anyways, Mr. Gator had to step away, and he had volunteered his spot to me, and I happily agreed to sub in for him. So that initial first load in, we were at the first encounter. They had been there for about 4 hours at that point. Um, and the difficulty of contest mode, I guess, Kingsley, would you agree that contest mode would probably be somewhere comparable to like a legend difficulty? Not quite master, but
It's kind of in between. Although I feel like on day one, I would say it's closer to master. It's kind of like, when you go back into and run the raid on master later on, that's pretty similar-ish to contest mode. So
Okay.
maybe a master raid level, but it's not exactly the same master raid equivalent to master nightfall just because of the arena sizes and density and everything. But
My
yeah,
camera's on.
somewhere between those two. Oh, did you hear me?
Right. Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sorry
Gotcha.
about that. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And you know, I was pretty timid going in there starting off, and we did spend quite a bit of time in that first encounter. I would say about 6 hours. Um, a lot of it came down to learning the mechanics because, well, for me subbing in and then getting the mechanics down and just progressing through the mechanic itself. Um, but once we got to the end of it, I was very thankful to be streaming at that time because I managed to capture that clear on contest mode. So uh, that is something that I'm always going to probably carry with me moving forward. So I would say that was very special to me. Now, after that contest mode, in contest mode, we got as far as second encounter. We figured out the mechanics. We got up to the third level, but we were just kind of getting a little spaghetti brained after probably about 8 hours for me. It would have been 11 going on 12 for Fluffy. and the rest of the fire team there. So we decided to call it a night. And we did reapproach the raid the following day, or I guess a day or two, I'll say. It wasn't contest mode anymore. We just went into the regular and we got the clear. Now the mechanics in Nezarec was pretty interesting. My favorite thing, I think, is the little jumping puzzle after the third encounter. I think it's like where you jump on the flowers. Do you know what I'm talking about there?
Yeah.
Well, there's the flower building to get out of the flower, and then there's the jumping and there's the movement encounter puzzle where you have to traverse forever and connect the light to the dark. So you have the little safety bubbles. So I'm not sure which one
No,
you're talking
Are
about.
not
you talking
quite
about the
that
big
one. That white
bulbs?
mechanic drive me nuts.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
But, the
Yeah,
little
the
flower
flower
jumping
areas.
part,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, I really enjoyed that particular part, especially, like, the design and the artwork of it. The mechanics of Nezarec was pretty interesting. It didn't take me too long to figure out. We usually just did, from spawn, once you spawn in there and you put down the banner, right plate was where we went to do our damage. I would take up duty on ad clear on left side, and I would take care of the yellow bars that would, spawn in there. Being careful of the tornado, of course, that kinda frustrated me at times, especially if I wasn't paying a pension. See what I did there?
I was paying a pension.
Yeah, exactly. But no, overall, as a person who doesn't really do a whole lot of raids, but does have the experience at least of, like, the raids I had mentioned earlier, I really enjoyed this raid. There was a couple of other notes while you guys were talking that I had written down. So ad density was one thing. That's one topic that comes up in regards to this particular raid. And I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, if I loaded in there solo and I went into that first encounter, is there a possibility I could just red border XP farm in there? So there's that thought that kind of crossed my mind. I'm just throwing that out there. um,
Not really, unless you can always kill the Trementers easily because you'll time out quickly.
which is
Because you know
true.
the white
Yes,
mechanic. Yeah.
yeah, I suppose that's true. The other topic that kind of came up, I had a thought of was the difficulty. Um, so I remember when Garden of Salvation, and Crown of Sorrow was kind of like the raids then. Feel free to correct me here if I'm mistaken, please. But my understanding was that the general, I'll say rough, loosely quote narrative at that time was that the community wanted some easier day one raids, if I'm not mistaken. And there was some negative comments surrounding that sentiment. Would you guys agree or disagree with that?
What was happening with those raids was it wasn't. I don't remember there being so much conversations about the difficulty of the raid, other than the difficulty to get in. They had a harder aspect of getting in. I believe they had minimum entry requirements. They didn't do contest mode exactly the same back then, and we had a really hard grind. It was harder to grind up to powerful and pinnacle then, and they were coming out just like that same weekend, or maybe at most the weekend after. And there was a lot of people that couldn't even get into Last Wish and Garden to even have a chance really to do okay in the raids. That's the conversation I remember anyways.
Hmm.
I don't know, Sen, Des, if you remember anything different. I could be wacky on
Not,
that.
not so much like pre-contest mode. Yeah, they usually had some pretty ridiculous power
Yeah.
requirements to get
And
into raid.
and now it's easier actually, even especially doing contests. It's easier to get in. It doesn't mean the raid's easier, but the funny thing with the contest mode this time, like it was just 1780. Like it was pretty easy for people to get to 1780 with artifact added on also.
Mhm.
And anything higher you got to didn't even matter because they just capped you at 1780 for contest mode.
Yeah.
Right. So surrounding this topic that I'm kind of alluding to, I mean, this is just kind of my personal opinion, but I don't think that it was too hard, but I don't think that it was too easy either, just personally. If anything, I think it was kind of at a difficulty where it was friendly to somebody who may be just kind of entering or trying this out for the first time. And I think that Destiny needs that raid where, like, there's a raid where you just kind of go to with your friends and you can just kind of bang it out with them and not have to like stress too much about it. Like I certainly wouldn't feel that way about a Crown of Sorrow raid. Um, but I think this is good for the game. And not only is it just like visually appealing, Not only is it doable, it's not too easy, just like I said, in my opinion, but it feels like the type of raid that has replay ability to it. And it's not just like you're going to do it the one time. Like I'm looking forward to going through there and seeing if I could potentially get the title for that raid, just because it feels like, the entry point is so accessible is I suppose the point I'm trying to hit home. What do you guys
Yeah,
think?
I
yeah,
mean,
no,
honestly, yeah, unfortunately for me, that's what I am looking for long term. I don't think I'm going to have as much replayability in this raid long term compared to other raids.
Mhm.
I'm not knocking it by any means, but I'm pretty good at guessing long term how I'm going to like the raid. It won't be as low as Vaulted Glass. I hate that raid the most for replayability. Got bored of
Mhm.
it pretty quickly. But this raid, I'm guessing it'll be, middle to low end as far as replayability for me. I'm just giving you an honest answer. I'm not knocking anything you're saying.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
for sure. And we appreciate that here, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially you being more of the person that is almost an expert when it comes to ratings. I feel
Well, it
like you
doesn't mean
you, you tend
m-
to rate quite a bit, a lot more than me or Sweaty does. So
yeah, that
it's good
doesn't
to hear
mean
your
I'm an
perspective.
expert on the opinion of replayability. Like different people have different opinions on what replayability means to them. But for my understanding of replayability myself and doing raids a lot, I can usually tell pretty quickly how much I'm going to like a raid and different aspects of it like that for myself.
It's enjoyment
Yeah,
Like
factor.
if you
yeah,
haven't raided a lot, you may not know. Like honestly, Sweaty, I'm not saying this for sure, but like this raid, if you did end up raiding a lot in the future, you could also potentially get bored of this raid quicker. You just don't know yet, or you could be totally different, and enjoy this raid more than other raids. So it's just hard to say until you start raiding a lot.
yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. For me, my initial thoughts overall, I really liked it. I'm kind of in the same thing with Sweaty. I haven't done a whole lot of raids. I just recently kind of got into them, beginning Witch Queen when I jumped back into this game. So I mean, I enjoy it. It was my first time doing the contest thing too, so that was a lot of fun. We already talked on that last show, so I'm not going to dive into that. But
Mhm.
I'm getting more and more into raids, more and more into GMs, like, for the first time. Like this, the whole PvE side Endgame. So I'm really enjoying it because it also goes into like the build crafting and shit that I like to do. So I love this, right? I thought it was beautiful. I like the mechanics. I like how it was more like like sitting there and doing the different things. It felt more like a time-based trial type thing in the
Yeah,
mechanics. Like
time.
you
Like I said, you got to go fast. Yeah.
yeah, it's more about going fast than, anything else that you've seen like some of the other raids. But I really liked it. I like the mechanics, I like the difficulty level, I like the design, the lore. I don't really know too much about Nezarec or anything like that, so I mean, I kind of didn't even pay attention to Season of the Plunder at all. And I haven't read all the books and all that kind of stuff, so I can't really speak on the lore. But overall, I thought it was a pretty solid raid. And the whole replayability thing, I can see it for a little bit. I think I'm gonna get bored with it, but I can see it for a little bit. I think so far from I haven't played every raid by no means. I'm still working my way. I've never done Last Wish, which I hear is pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah. And
That's a good
Guardian,
one. I
Oh,
actually enjoy that raid quite a
Last
bit.
Wish, I love. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but this one I see is like how you were saying an entry level kind of raid thing, and I think I might have seen it on Twitter or something like that somewhere out there, maybe an Ask Cross video. I'm not sure, but they were talking about how like this would be a good introductory raid. Like it might start with Vault of Glass and then go up to like this one, King's
Hmm.
Fall, and progressively get harder.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
a stepping stone for players, which
Yeah.
totally makes sense for Bungie. I mean, it's a brand new expansion, a lot of new players being brought in. There's a lot of change. It's almost like a fresh game. So as a business side of it, it kind of makes sense to have something a little bit more approachable for the newer players and whatnot.
yeah.
I want to give major
Yeah.
shout out to the third encounter. The planet counter is so fun. It's also becoming one of the easier encounters once you run it a few times, but that doesn't mean it's not. This is one of these ironic things, even though I'm saying overall with the raid, the third encounter is just so fun. And once you do the planet moving, you never want to do ads because ads is boring compared to moving the planets. But I love that encounter. The planet encounter is just, they did an excellent job with that one.
I couldn't agree more. I loved that encounter. That's actually where we got hung up on contest mode. Like we were able to figure out the mechanics of everything pretty quickly. Like we breezed through the first encounter and the second encounter pretty quickly, especially for a team that had never really played together or raided together, but it was just that damage check that got us, man. Like, it was unfortunate because we really wanted to try to get that. I mean, me and one of the other guys that me and him joined a group with Salt and a few of the other guys. I think Scoot was in there, and me and Scoot were actually partners in that on the lower platforms of the Planet
Nice.
Encounter. We
Yeah.
came up with our own call outs initially and figured this shit out. It was a good time.
Yeah, you can do that. We've been doing that more and more. Like, you just have to be on the same page with your partner,
Yeah.
and the top crew can have a different call out than the bottom crew, and it doesn't really cause a problem. You just listen to your partner's voice and do that. So it's a fun encounter.
Yeah, it's cool and it's beautiful, and how it ties into lore. I was actually curious about that. Actually, we'll jump into that once we get to that encounter because this is just our initial overall thoughts, and now we're gonna jump into more of the encounter itself. Let's talk the actual encounter. So, starting with the first one, Cataclysm. What did you guys think about it? Like, this is just open floor, open mic. We're not gonna take turns or nothing like that. Let's just talk about it.
Sin, you haven't run it yet, so we'll skip you.
I have not.
We'll see you in a couple
Yeah,
topics.
right. Count at least
We'll see you
Des
later.
and myself out for the first two. I could come
Oh,
in-
but Des watched it. I don't
Oh,
even think you
yeah.
watched it, did you?
No. So yeah, okay. Des has one up on me then.
But yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's-
mean, I won't say long on it, but it's actually pretty good. The first time I ran it, I was actually not too impressed, and I ran it with some other crews that had a bit more difficulty. Again, it goes back to, even though this is an easier raid, if you can't execute well, kill outs quickly, know where things are spawning in, this is going to be a tougher raid for newer players, I still think. And then I got a little more impressed with the encounter, and I think it's a good starting encounter. And I love the layout. There's a good up and down, platforms. Some are lower, and by the time you get to the end, there's like things you have to find inside the building, down below, and on top and stuff. So I'd give it a solid B, as Gator would say, for that encounter. It's actually not too bad.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. A lot of ads. The ad density was crazy. We were talking about that earlier. The ad density, that one was awesome. And I love how they had Tormentor on one side and a champ on the other side. So it's not like if you were splitting the teams, one side, two teams on each side of the middle column. It's not like one's slacking off. Like, one has something to deal with as well. So I enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, one thing about Cataclysm that I was just kind of thinking of as everybody else was talking, it's a very good encounter to showcase Strand with, in my opinion. Because I mean, certainly on the contest mode, it really punished you if you were on the floor level, and it really encouraged you to be up high, and you had to be able to get across left to mid to right relatively quickly in order to take care of scions. So putting on Strand was a benefit, not only just for that reason, but if you needed to deal with a champion or something like that was just maybe aggravating the team, you could suspend it in the air, and that was actually quite a benefit whenever you needed it. At times, if I had a Witherhorde on, I was able to put the Witherhorde on underneath them. They would still take damage, and they're suspended in the air. They can't do anything about it, and I could just move on to the next either mechanic or whatever it was. So, yeah, Cataclysm was quite an experience, and I really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed using heavy machine guns, which was a unique experience because I had never felt encouraged or like the desire to use heavy machine guns, certainly in like a raid before. Um, so going through that experience was quite interesting, and I really enjoyed it.
Spoken like
Yeah.
a true hunter, huh? Swinging around trying to get the high ground. Wow, I was down there because we ran it together. And we were actually on the same side, and he was up there. He was kind of taking care of a lot of the scions that popped, and I was down, getting down and dirty as a Titan with my glaive and void build. Yeah, it was a good combination though. Des, what about you? Did you have anything? I know you said you've seen it.
I have
Anything you
seen
want to
it.
add to the conversation?
I don't know. All in all, I definitely agree. It's a good opening encounter for like the pace of the raid. I feel like it's very kind of wrathy. Slight more like actionable opening rather than like a few raids. Like I don't know. I think Vault and Kingsfall were probably probably the only two that actually had like mysterious openings. 'Cause I was trying to say it's like, yeah, more actionable raid or opening, and it's like, yeah, but I think we've actually had more actionable openings for raids these, especially as time went on, than not anymore. But either way, like it's fantastic. It looks freaking hectic, and good luck watching it. My good God.
Yep.
And Sin, I know you haven't touched it at all, but you excited?
I'm excited to try it tonight. I guess you could say I've been touching grass and not the raid at this point.
Oh shit! I'll be on. If y'all need another fill-in, let me know. I got you.
You got it.
How dare you be a responsible adult?
I know.
Right?
Back in my day.
Back in my day, we didn't play video games.
Get off my lawn.
So from Cataclysm, I think we did a little bit of walking, right? There was a bit of travel that we had to do, which was kind of cool. There was those little, what was it, the aspirants of Nesric, I think that were called, that we run into, a few lore books and whatnot. But then that took us to, like, correct me if I'm wrong, is it Cision? Is that how you pronounce this encounter?
Decision. Yeah.
Cision.
Yeah.
Okay,
I believe
okay. Well, it's got a spelling that I'm not familiar with, so
Right.
I went with my best. Cision. What did y'all think of Cision?
I will say this: the naming of things, Bungie is always like top tier because they find words that exist, but you've never heard of them before.
Yeah. When I was typing it up in the show notes, I was expecting that to come up as an incorrect spelled word. And now,
Right.
when the show's over, I'm gonna go and see what the actual definition is for this
Right.
because I've never seen it spelt that way or that word
Yeah.
in general.
But no, I will go ahead and open it up and go in this. Like this, I actually really like. Again, from an bleh, breath, from an observer's perspective, like this is actually a super fun encounter to watch. Uh, Seeing like the switching from like side to side, and, like linking things up and stuff. It's actually very, like I said, very fun to observe what's happening here.
Yeah. So what'll happen? This encounter, it's kind of annoying. It'll be annoying for a lot of groups unless you are the runner that learns it well, and then it'll be fun for you. The ad control on this one, ironically, is a joke. It's boring. And a lot of times people that try the running, it's super frustrating for a really long time because you have to learn the pushy things that take you across, and it's worse on Warlock of all the characters. I have a way to do it now. I finally figured out I can give it tips if anyone's interested. Hunter is the easiest to recover from. Titan's pretty easy too. And because of, again, having to go really fast and hitting those jumps perfectly and knowing where all the connection points are, and there's 3 levels, will also be, if you're bringing a lot of new people through, I definitely don't recommend on this raid unless you have a lot of time to spend. It'll be hard to get people those clears without spending several hours, or potentially based on everyone's experience. But it's not my favorite encounter, but if you're the runner and once you learn it, you're having fun because you're just kind of in your own zone and doing your own thing. And then there's just 2 runners, and then the rest of the 4 people are doing ad clear, and you kind of ignore them. So,
Yeah,
That's
no, I agree on that. Like I did runner for the first time last night actually. Usually I was just doing ad clear the last couple times that I actually ran this raid, and yeah, it was there was a couple pain points at the very beginning, but once I like, okay, I'm figuring out the pattern. Like it's more about figuring out the pattern. Like
yeah, and there is a pattern.
to sit there and go
Yeah.
back and get the buff, and don't forget to go back to get the buff because that was one thing that kept. Yeah, I felt dumb a few times, and then putting on strand with a grapple was super nice to help speed up the process. And with those little man boopers or whatever you want to call them, they could
Yeah.
be they can be interesting at times. They're all over the
Yeah.
place.
I'll give a tip real quick. So what you have to do as a warlock is, it's so different. There's no other warlock jump like this in the game. Is you know, everyone needs to have their butt against the thing before they shoot it, but you have better luck as a warlock if you continue to push back on your stick. Well, again, if you're doing controller, as you shoot it, so you're still pushing back, that'll give you a good arch, but also like most of the way up to your arch, which is about a third of the way across the chasm, you single jump. You don't double jump, because you always double jump as a warlock to get the height and the distance, you know. At the beginning, you do jump, jump. But if you do jump, jump, it messes you up. If you do single jump, it'll actually keep the arch going and give you even a little more distance. It's just because of the speed and verticality of it that why you have to do that.
It's good to know, because I'm building my warlock right now.
Scission is, you know, I actually enjoyed this encounter quite a bit.
Scission?
Scission,
I love
Scission,
it.
Scission, Scission,
Scissoring. No,
cheddar,
I'm just kidding.
potato,
Scission.
potato, tomato, tomato.
I like it.
Worcestershire.
The Shizhans.
No, but on a serious note, I actually really did enjoy this encounter, and even in contest mode, trying to figure out the mechanics. I mean, it didn't take us too long to figure it out. We realized that there was a light side and there was a dark side, and then we seen the jumps between the two, and then we knew that there was going to have to be somebody clearing ads. I'm not sure if it was just because we had really good runners, and I just happened to really enjoy ad clear on that particular encounter, but everything was fairly smooth until we had to figure out where the second set of places for the buffs were, because we couldn't find one of them. We could find for the light side, we could find the dark buff zone, but we didn't realize that it was on the other side of the wall for the light buff. And then, of course, from there was another one for the final to move on to the next. So that kind of hung us up for a little bit till we figured that out. And ad clear, of course, the adjustments there, because I believe they introduce a new enemy on the second floor. So that's a new dynamic. But once you get past that and you're on the third floor, it's pretty straightforward from there. We had a lot of fun with it. And then, of course, once you get to clear, we were trying to find for the longest time where we were supposed to go. And it would take some time before we realized we had to go through the mouth of the flower. But yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that was pretty interesting. And I also enjoyed finding the secret chest locations. That was pretty fun. It's not too difficult. So I would say that particular encounter I enjoyed myself personally.
Nice.
But moving on to the third encounter, we got macrochodism, macrochodism. But this would be the encounter that Kingsley had highlighted earlier. Visually speaking, absolutely love it. It just kind of looks like almost like a dream Marvel science world kind of thing. Like it's a very impressionable and very rememberable encounter, so to speak. But I mean, contrary to what to perhaps some popular belief, I guilty as hell may enjoy the ad clear on said encounter.
You're just trying to be at the top of that board when we wipe, huh?
But see, if you raid more, Sweaty, I can 90% promise you'll eventually get bored of just doing ad clears. No one wants.
I believe it.
That's like saying in PvP, I'm always just the person that stays in the back and does support. I mean, it'll get boring over time. You'll eventually want to do the mechanics more.
Yeah.
Gator?
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's not like we don't appreciate the ad aspect, because we do need it. We do need
It's
it.
just boring.
That's for damn sure. Yeah,
Well, in the
Sim, so what
previous,
did you think? Because this is where you could start to chime in too, right?
Unfortunately, I did the boring part because they already had it down. They're like, just do the ads. I'm like, all right. I see stuff. I want to do stuff.
That's hilarious.
But, all right. But I'm hoping to try a different role and actually click some additional buttons tonight.
Yes, make them let you do Planet Sim.
I mean, in all fairness,
Right, I wanna-
other raids, I do a lot more. I do. I actually prefer to do other stuff.
Yeah.
It was actually Yeah, it was actually Sin and Kingsley that taught me how to read Vault in Last Wish.
Mm-hmm. And it's
Mhm.
fun once you get it down, which doesn't take long. People always worry more than they need to because we try to keep it simple. That's my attitude in
Do?
life. I do IT as a profession, and the one reason why I do well, my customers like me, is because I don't try to talk above their heads. I try to like bring it to a level to keep IT issues simple that they appreciate.
I wouldn't say we keep that
Um,
encounter simple though, especially with
Vault?
breadsticks,
No,
meatball,
well, we
and
have fun. We have fun with it.
No, 100% fun.
Speaking of
Um,
call outs, so like what kind of call outs did you guys have that worked for you guys in the planetary system?
Oh, yeah. I do have recommendations on that because there's different ways you can do it. It's the funny thing is I'm pretty much guessing how it's going to go eventually because I don't know if you remember on Volta Glass, it started with numbers reading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, everyone started just doing left close, middle far, things like that. And there's probably a good reason to that. And I'm guessing it'll switch to something like that here too, because people are trying the numbering system, but everyone has different opinions. Do you read it clockwise? Do you read it counterclockwise? Is it one on one side, different on the other side, or do you want to have it the same on both sides? You're looking down like on a book. Well, guess what? You can just say like wall center top or top left right and keep it simple. And I like to keep it simple for people, and that's my opinion. But again, you just only have to be on the same page as your buddy. If the people on the other team really want to do a different call out, let them. We don't need to fight about it or whatever. But I do have opinions what I think will be easiest.
you may not want to fight, but I'll fight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What did you guys
Let
do
me at him, Uncle Scope. Let
for
me
your
at
call
him.
outs?
right.
Des, did you
Yeah.
have different call outs or were you guys probably raiding together, I would assume?
No, yeah, Sin didn't do it, and then I did those call outs. What did you do, Nada, for your call outs?
So when it came to contest mode, when we first were trying to figure it out, it was me and Scoot as a team on the lower ones, and we did top, bottom, and far.
Yeah,
Far
that
being
works
wall,
too.
and
Yeah.
it worked perfectly for us. And then the
Mhm.
second time around that we did last night, there was a numbering system that was implemented, and it was a little odd to me because like I got the numbering system after it was explained on the light side. I was on the light side, so it was like 1 starting from the boss, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to where the rally is on the other platform. However,
Mm.
like it doesn't really I didn't care for it as much because I don't really need to know the numbers of the top
No,
teams platforms.
exactly. Yeah.
So we were trying to run the numbers. I was like, okay, cool. I'm down to learn a new call out. And we just kept, kind of screwing up here and there. Probably a lot on me because I didn't realize that the other side had different number set and all the. It was different. I'm not gonna say it's bad. It works for some people, I'm sure. But then
Yeah.
it was me and Scoot again, and so we just ended up going with our top, bottom, far, and it
Mhm.
just worked out nice, clean, easy, and got right through it. I love that encounter. That encounter's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fun encounter.
Oh, and speaking of words that you think are made up and completely aren't, boss, I believe, is the extricator of planets, something along those lines.
Yeah.
An extricator is basically someone who explains things.
No.
Well, he didn't tell us shit in contest mode, so we need to remove that title.
Another little
Wait,
fun fact. Oh,
Hmm?
sorry, you go ahead there,
Oh.
Des.
no, you go. You do it. My idea
Okay,
already
it's just
collapsed, and I forgot what I was going to say. So you go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
You're good.
Just a short little fun fact that I had realized about the raid. Something that maybe you guys could see if you could notice yourselves, Mr. Sin, since you're going to be going into it soon. In between each encounter, you know the pulse wipe mechanic that gets you at certain times in the game.
I've heard about it, and I probably experienced it
Right.
and never even paid attention to it.
So if you look towards that source of the pulse mechanic, you're going to notice that it's coming from Nezarek, and it's coming while he's in his cocoon, right?
Mhm.
Um, as you progress through the raid, you can actually see in between the encounters his progression into his final form as you get closer to that Nezarek final encounter, which I actually found
Yeah.
like that blew my mind. It's just a small detail, but like that small detail went a long way with me for some reason.
No, I
Oh yeah,
agree. It is awesome. Little
sure.
touches like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
gotta check
entirely
that out.
fantastic.
It's amazing
And
how much these developers get grief over, certain things in the game, but how much attention to detail that they have for little things like that.
oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, 1,000,000% because I mean it's just little things like that that also they create like a story with the environment itself because like you said the death pulses are like essentially Nezarek like potentially expelling us with his own power, but then for like the traversal encounter, you're shooting or activating like light and using light to nullify that. So it's literally a battle of light and dark throughout this raid as is happening, which is literally the entire conclusion that they're building up to. So again, it's these little fantastic things that you pick up on.
Now, I came across okay, so Des, I got a question for you because I came across
Shoot.
a piece of information along the vine, and I'm not
Mhm,
certain if it's fact or fiction. That information was that Nezarek,
mhm.
in fact, was resurrected by the Traveler by a result of the beam hitting him. Is that correct?
That is as it's told us by the raid cinematic itself. Yes.
Okay, okay, I don't know why, but just like that particular fact that it was the Traveler that had resurrected him, it just for
Mhm.
some reason that particular fact blew my mind.
No,
Um,
yeah, it was, and because the cinematic specifically lit or labels that capability as the traveler's terraforming powers.
right,
Um,
which is why we see the
yeah,
the greens and the trees and leaves and
yeah,
flowers.
and not only that, but the very opening or the hole that it left in that pyramid ship is very similar to the last place that the traveler touched in our solar system, which was that similar configuration on Io. Um, God, was that a load-in zone? I can't
I
remember if
think it
that's where
was
you
near.
dropped into.
I think it was near one, or was one. Yeah.
By the way, it was like all the way on like the left side of the map where the Whisper mission started. I might be getting that wrong. Either way, it was involved with something because you had to wait for a very particular public event in that area to start said thing.
Whisper?
I believe I'm wanting to say it was Whisper. That
Yeah, I
it
think it was the
feels
Whisper
right,
mission
but
because that was a public
yeah,
event you had to wait for.
yeah. But if you check the distance out in that area, you saw a very similar like pattern in the planet itself, as
Mhm.
was on the pyramid ship. So yeah, apparently, my bigger question is what? No, it's not just like that's the only bad thing about having the traveler as a silent entity for so long. We still don't. We've been. Mm, it's basically speculated that every year in Destiny is a Destiny time mirrors real time. Seasons happen essentially as they would release. So these things that are happening are like week at a time, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we take that, which has been 6, 7, 8, like 9 years
Mhm.
that we've been running across the solar system for this big white ball. We still don't know its purposes or its plans, as greatly evidenced in Witch Queen. But yeah, so it's hard to say like why would that have did it know? Was it aiming to do that? Was it just some happy accident a la Bob Ross? I mean, there's just thank you. Um, but no, I mean, there's just so many questions that it leaves with us still that we can't know because the traveler was dormant and silent for so long, and then still, even though it was awake by the end of D2 Vanilla and the Red War campaign, it still hasn't really spoken except for that one mission in the Visions of Light in Forsaken.
Mm.
And of course, the Vision Quest that it sent Crow on, which we're still waiting for a payout on that.
And
So
another thing that I noticed too about like the terraforming that you had mentioned earlier, right? With the traveler and the artwork
yes,
involved there. I noticed too that anything that in game that we kill that is a disciple when
yeah, the
it
tree,
dies,
or
right?
we identify it as a tree, but here's the thing: we see the traveler shoot a beam that literally creates flowers and trees and a tree of silver wings. But what the disciple almost tend to like, I even called it trees myself. So
Hmm.
I'm just it's literally a knee jerk reaction that you see these things and oh, it's like a tree.
Well, yeah, to
I almost,
describe it, right?
yeah, but I almost think it's more like brambles,
Brambles,
because
okay.
like almost thorns or potentially just dead, dead tree. But
Hmm.
it's definitely something stylistically different. Because again, like going back, um, another great place to start, but it can be a little tough to digest. Is the Unveiling lore book that came out with God, what was the name of that expansion? The Moon when it came back, Season of the Undying, whatever expansion
Mm,
that was just before.
Might have been Undying.
Either way, anyway, lore book The Unveiling. Um, it equates what became the paracausal forces of light and darkness as the Gardener and the Winnower. Now, again, Winnower, another one of those words that you think is made up, and then you look it up. And winnowing is the process of removing chaff from wheat, basically. So you're basically, it's the process of sorting out the bad stuff to get the good stuff, which is hilarious. Anyway, the gardener's job in the great flower game that they were playing is to open the flowers, while the winnower's job was to close the flowers. So again, that whole difference, like, it might be the same, but it's different aspects, which is just another entire whole thing across this whole light and darkness thing that another
Yeah.
person on YouTube, I believe it's Evase, perhaps. He does a lot of like coverage on things. But he actually has a video out about concept art that was released on for Lightfall across Bungie employees' ArtStation profiles, and among those was like the complete model, I would say, for the Veil. So it has like this one is basically you can see like two very distinct sections in it, and one is like the opening that the ghost would go into, and then the later half is of course like the almost what looks like brambles coming out from the back of it. And if you look at it side by side, you can see it's almost a very like light and dark, like within the same spectrum kind of like imagery and such. So it's again many questions, especially as we're getting into like trying to get to the sources of these things, because we still don't even have like confirmation that potentially if the Witness is this Winnower figure,
Hmm.
or if the Winnower is because if you read the Unveiling, the Gardener and the Winnower literally become light and dark, like literally, because they become the paracausal rules or forces. But yeah, it's so. Is the Witness supposed to be an avatar for the Winnower, or is the Witness something that the Winnower created to ensure its will is spread? Is the Traveler the same thing as the Witness, or, as I believe, is there something inside the Traveler that is Witness-esque? That is the true thing
Hmm.
that was asleep within the shell of the Traveler, and is the Traveler just a glorified pyramid ship? Not
Hmm.
literally a pyramid ship, but like the pyramid ships for the light instead of the dark. So yeah, a lot of questions. still eager to see a lot of answers, but we'll find out. But of course, they are hinting that the veil will be an important thing upcoming. I just hope we get a lot more answers, such as, what's up with reviving a disciple? I mean, that's kind of not cool. We're kind of in the middle of a
Yeah.
war. You just vanish, and there you go. Reviving something that's going to stand in our way like that, and of course, he just has to have a cool nickname like the God of Pain. Oof. So yeah,
I wish that was like the title that we got for the raid. Like the
right,
final God of Pain. Like, I almost want to
right,
change my Bungie ID to Native Raider, the final God of Pain. Because why
right.
not, bro? Like, that sounds legit. So, anyways, we'll transition that to the last encounter.
Yes.
As a perfect transition into the Nezarec encounter of the raid. So, on this one now, you basically have two runners, same mechanic that you had throughout the raid. Which that was another thing I was going to bring up earlier. Like, it's like if you learn that first mechanic in Cataclysm, right? Like, it's pretty much the same throughout the raid, minus the planets. Like, I was hoping that there would be a little bit more mechanically wise, like at least 3 different mechanics per raid, because I
Mhm.
feel like, I mean, Kingsley, I was actually curious about your opinion on that. Like, when it
Well,
comes
we
to
were.
raids,
Yeah, go ahead.
like, how many mechanics do you usually see per raid? I know it increases and usually
Uh,
adds too, but this was kind of linear. Like, you learn the first one and you pretty much could be a runner for the majority of the rest of them.
it's not even so much. Honestly, I'd have to think that over to get some answers. It's not even so much like how many mechanics there are, as long as it's somewhat building a little bit more and they're interesting. And it's not like this one is super uninteresting, but it's not interesting enough so that by the time you get to the end, you really feel like you're doing that much more. You're not. You're doing pretty much the same thing you were doing in the second encounter. In fact, it's easier because they're all right there. You don't have to go back and forth,
Yeah.
for the runners. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
I
the
thought the
the,
same.
the end encounter I liked probably almost the least. It's he's a cooler looking boss. I call him Fat Thor. And he's very powerful, but he's kind of chunky looking and he has a very low health pool. And it's more frantic, but the mechanics in Val with Rolk are more interesting leading up to him, way more interesting.
Yeah.
But in this one, the mechanics are less interesting, but there's more ads. That's the franticness of it, and he's a little more aggressive. But it's messy because of that. It's really messy. Like you can mess up easily if people aren't good at clearing ads, and DPS is messy, because he like moves around, and it's so that aspect you can say, well, that's better because you have to try harder to doing DPS on him, but not really because he has a low health pool, so it's still easier to get him down. So I really don't like the last encounter at all, other than it looks really cool. The boss is cool enough looking and everything like that, for that aspect of it.
Yeah. I
Eh,
definitely say that more like the newer raids that come out are definitely a little more mechanically focused, I guess you can say.
mm,
And the fact that they do build upon mechanics far better, like like Deepstone. Once you find out what the things do, they do that thing. Now they have slightly different context per encounter, and you end up getting one added. But like I said, their functionality stays the same. The target slightly changes,
And
and then
also,
these. Mhm.
oh, finish, yeah.
Oh, I was about to say these mechanics do seem more tied, more bound together. Whereas you get something like Last Wish, the mechanics are kind of all over the place. Same with like Vault and King's Fall. They were a little more like Vault has the central mechanic of the Aegis, but still like everything around it tends to change fairly drastic from encounter to encounter. Somewhat, kind of, maybe not drastic, but pretty
Yeah.
decent change. But yeah,
And also this end encounter, it's funny, like the Chad streamers are like, lol, we just did it so fast we didn't have to do the safety mechanic to We just brute forced it. We didn't have to do the safety mechanic to get in the bubbles and stuff. And so that's kind of an interesting thing too. It's like I just don't feel like for the average groups that we bring in, like even our normal raid group when we did it on day 0 of non-contest mode, we did in first phase 70% of the time we got the connections fast enough that we didn't have to do the safety bubble. But it's really hard to do that second phase after you do DPS, just the way it takes them a little longer to go back on the platform and there's still more ads on the field, where at the beginning the ads just start to spawn in. So it's really messy. You got to have to decide, should you just, a lot of groups are starting to decide just only connect 3 no matter what and then do the refuge bubble because that's just safer, you know? And I don't love that. There's not really like, I wish we could say, can we just do good enough to connect it without the safety bubble? Or there's just, it's hard to explain my feelings on it. It's so weird, but yeah, I don't know.
What did you call Nezarek again? What was the special name that you had for him?
Fat Thor.
Fat Thor. There's a title for the show.
Hell yeah, I love it.
You know how he looks a little more chunky.
Yeah, I love it.
I do like the idea of adding that to where that third team, that ad clear team, you know, the people that are not runners, that they actually do have to kind of shoot and see his aura that he emits to let you know if the safety mechanic is going to be light or dark to dunk.
Yeah.
I did like that addition. So that was definitely a new thing that you saw in that raid. That added a little bit more to it, that people had to be
Yeah.
really focused and not just pure ad clear. You got to pay attention, shoot a shoulder or whatever it is. I haven't ran that role yet.
Yeah.
I've done just the basic left ad clear or something like that, and I've ran the nodes. So I thought
Yeah.
that was
So it probably is good because that'll, by at least, yeah, you make a good point. By at least saying like, okay, we're just going to do the safety bubble after the third connection to be safe, you know, instead of connecting all, what is it, 5 or 6? I forget how many are on each side.
Yeah, 6.
Let's just do it after the third to be safe. And then that way it adds a little more interestingness to the middle crew. The middle crew, basically what you're doing with Nezarek is you ultimately have to shoot his shoulders and his front spot for different reasons. You can shoot the shoulders right away or afterwards. You can shoot him right away on the platform afterwards. But once you pop both the shoulders, he will burst either a light or a dark aura around him. And that's what's telling us how to create the safety bubble. That's just informational. You're not shooting the shoulders to do DPS. You're shooting the shoulders to find out how to make the safety bubble. And then you're also, that middle crew that's, quote, boss babysitting, you're also shooting his stomach to get the extended hatred on you. Because what he does, as you know, as runners, is he starts to do a hatred first on some of the runners that boops you up in the air. He has like those psionic powers that boops you up in the air. And he's always going to get at least one person first. So I'm saying this to defend the bus babysitters because a lot of runners are like, how come you can't shoot it faster? Well, you can't. He opens, even if you have a sniper and scope right in, he'll get one person first, but then if you don't hit his chest spot quick enough, he starts turning and getting hatred to more and more people. So then the other runner gets it, and then the ad people get it. And so, yeah, if you're a pleb and don't hit it very quickly, then everyone starts getting hatred and everyone's mad at you. But basically what you're doing is you're taking the hatred off of all of them, focusing it onto you, and then he goes aggro on you and then starts chasing you. That's why you shoot his chest.
Yeah, I swear last night that dude hated me for sure because I swear to God, like I was the first one to get it every time as I'm trying to run and do the light side, you know?
Oh, well, yeah, you will. And especially after a DPS phase, the way it works again with there still being ads on the field, and he seems to take a little bit longer jumping up back on his little platform. And then also I've noticed he tends to like turn a little sharper right away to one of the runners. I'm kind of guessing, I haven't figured out yet. I'm thinking maybe one of the runners should actually pause a little bit for second phase because then he may not focus on them, but I'm not sure. But anyways, that second phase, it's even more likely that more people are going to get his hatred before the boss babysitter can truly get his chest, just the way it's working right now.
Okay. Well, we'll take a quick break and then we will get into the questions, couple announcements, and close out this episode.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Thank you for listening to this episode. And I just want to let you guys know that we do have a Discord with a community that is continually growing, and we're hosting different types of events. We got a lot of plans for the future of this. So I would really encourage you to check us out. Our Discord is very friendly and open, and we're looking for all types of Guardians, whether that's PvE, whether that's PvP, whether you just want to come in and just chill and chat with the community.
Or you know what? Even if you want to play Gambit.
Yes, Gambit. Why not? I'll jump into some Gambit with you.
And not only that, Guardians, but if you have a question for the show, that is the hub where you can put your question for the show or feedback. Furthermore, this is also where we have an LFG. If you are a part of the Blueberry Lounge clan, this is also the hub where we communicate with our clan members. If not, if you just want to kick the feed up, maybe show us what you've been watching, what you've been eating lately. You got some good eats, you can post it there.
Yeah, whatever it is that you like, that we just want to get to know you, the community, you as a Guardian, you as a person, whatever it is you'd like to share. It's just a very welcoming atmosphere, and we expect to see you there.
GG's, Guardian, and thanks again. All right, listeners, welcome back. This is the last portion of the show where we go over questions from our community. We go over some announcements, and we sign off and call it an episode. So let's go to our questions for the show. Starting with our very first question here from Average D2 Player. Question for the show. What's wrong with Gambit? You guys want to start?
The silence means that nothing's wrong with it. It's beautiful the way it is. It's a very well played playlist.
Yeah,
It's
perfect
so
just the way it
interesting.
is.
Like I don't even care about it. It's like I don't hate it or love it, but I don't really have ever any reasons to go in. I enjoy it more than like if 1 is bad and 2 is good. It's closer to the 2 side whenever I play it, but I never have a driving desire to play it because it just doesn't. Just not much has been done with it, and no one hardly is popping into it. And yeah, I never do my Gambit. Even sometimes I do Gambit less than Crucible, ironically. For me, being a Crucible person, so I don't know what to say about it.
What about you, Des?
Yep, go ahead there, Des.
I absolutely adore Gambit. Gambit was fantastic. It's great. Like, especially what was it, Gambit Prime or whatever when it came out?
Those are long gone.
Yeah, no, but still, it was great. That was like the heyday of Gambit. Like when it was first introduced, it was pretty fantastic. I was a Dredgen before they made it. No, that's not true. Let me not finish that statement. I almost had Dredgen before they made it easier. I was close. But anyway, I still finished the Dredgen title back when, it was still difficult to do. The only thing I was missing was like the one freaking drop from the one boss. But neither here nor there. I don't know. It's what's wrong with Gambit. Functionally, it's a pretty fantastic and great game mode. It's just there's not a lot to really differentiate it and make it feel like its own thing, separate from either PvP or PvE. It's just in this weird limbo ground that I don't think Bungie can. I personally don't see a way for them to fix it without changing something like pretty drastic in the way it works. One idea that I heard that would probably make it feel pretty nice again was if there was a system that could lock you into roles, like the old Gambit armor that had specific bonuses for specific roles within Gambit. If they could somehow lock us into those in the game and like give us these roles and like the bonuses to go with these roles, like I feel like it could be more fun and like strategic. But right now it's just kind of there. I did like the changes that they made. Yeah, when they took away Prime and made some changes and changed how the boss took it down to 1 round, which let's be fair, 1 round is nice in Gambit. 3 was ridiculous. I loved Gambit, and I thought 3 rounds was ridiculous. But yeah, I don't know. It's just in a really weird place, and
I did
they
really
just
enjoy the derelict.
yeah, oh yeah. But no, like I just feel like they're just going to need to do something very, very drastic, to really make it feel like its own thing. And I don't know if they're wanting to commit to something drastic for just one thing. You know, I mean, look how long it took them to tune PvP and PvE separately. It took stasis, like legitimately. It took stasis for them to finally break their mentality of actual separate tunings for like different areas and like changing how things work and such.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it just needs to be. Yeah, like I said, they just need something that drastic. They just need something to make it feel its own. I feel coming from a person that loves Gambit because I love Gambit. Hey, did you know I love Gambit? Anyway,
Des loves Gambit.
yeah, I do.
We got to change his name in the Discord, huh?
I mean, I actually like that was a title I went for, and I actually wore it with pride because it had lore implications. It had, it was rough. It wasn't incredibly easy when I was working on it. So I mean, like I said, when I
Mhm.
got it, I actually wore it. Like that was a title I was actually proud to get. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
All right, Sweaty, what about you? Gambit?
I like it every once in a while. It's one of those game modes that I'll jump in when I'm not taken too seriously. If you can imagine, I enjoy being an invader,
Yeah.
but it's not something that I actively seek out to do or anything, though.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm in the same mind frame as you when it comes to Gambit. Like I think right now they've been focusing resources to an extent to focus Crucible. I think
Yeah,
maybe once they, I mean, I'm not going to say once they perfect Crucible because there's no such thing as perfecting something that's so fluid. I think once they get it to a level that they feel is okay, maybe they'll start focusing those additional resources there. Because like
yeah,
this game is PVE centric. I
yeah,
like
exactly.
the majority of the resources are going to go to the PVE game, to raids, to dungeons, to all that kind of good stuff, which we love absolutely. But I think those other two aspects of the game, the PvP and the PvPVE, if you will, they're going to sit there and you know work on one. And I think once they get it to a certain level from the Crucible, they're going to start to work on that. And there's a lot of like crazy good ideas. I know that this is a topic that you go to the Guardian Downcast, and they talk this quite a bit, quite a bit. Like Gator has a lot of really good ideas that I've heard from their podcast,
Lies.
and yeah, I don't know, I don't really care too much about it. The one thing I will say with Gambit though, that they do sometimes have some weapons that are worth grinding for in Gambit.
Hmm?
So I mean, outside of that though, it's whatever to me. But we'll move on to the next question. We got one from Mr. Monkey. Question for the guests. Kingsley, you've asked me about tea. Talk me through how to make the perfect coffee. And then there's a follow-up question for Des. So first, go ahead, Kingsley.
Okay. Ooh la la. Thank you, Mr. Monkey. It doesn't have to be complicated and it doesn't have to be expensive, but coffee is a substance, a bean that the longer it sits in the elements, the grosser taste it will have. It oxidizes very easily. So if you can get coffee beans that are, even if you just go with like folders or something that are vacuum packed, and as soon as you open it, put it in the fridge and use it quickly. Do not let it sit for weeks and weeks once you open it. That is like the number one rule. I like to grind my beans. You don't have to do that, but the nice benefit of that is they are freshly ground, so they don't start to oxidize once you do that. You can get a coffee grinder for like $40. Then the next most important thing, whether you're doing drip coffee, French press, or whatever, is make sure you get your ratios right. You'd be surprised. It even took me years to figure out that a lot of the recommendations for ratios or what they say a cup is not what we consider a cup in the U.S. It's not 8 ounces. A coffee cup is more like 6 ounces. Okay. So you got to get those ratios right. And the best way to get the ratios right is to have a kitchen scale. You know, if anyone who's like a baker, they know too, like you measure in grams. You don't just measure in tablespoons because there can be different things. I know this is all sounding hoity-toity, but once I have this down, I actually do use a drip coffee machine, and it tastes beautiful. I don't worry about the French press or the AeroPress or anything like that, but I grind my beans and I measure the amounts out so it's exact. And since then, I've always had a perfect tasting cup of coffee that I love.
Quite
Hopefully
the
that helps, Mr. Monkey.
yeah, quite the
Nice.
connoisseur there. That's interesting.
Kind of. But there are people that even like roast their beans too, which is way insane. Or you can say like, well, get beans that are roasted within the last couple of weeks. I get that point, but like you can't. That's a little too hard to worry about. You got to spend a lot more money if you want to come from places that they've proved that they've roasted it recently, or go to like a local roaster or something. Then you have better luck there. But I even will sometimes make like the Folger coffees and things like that, but I always prefer whole beans, and then I grind them myself, and then to me it tastes better that way.
That's awesome. I used to love coffee, man. I cut off caffeine quite a few years ago. I zero caffeine for me, but I used to love coffee, and I actually used to love the Army coffee, which sounds absolutely terrifying for those that know it, because usually it comes out like syrup, like it's so thick, and there's grounds all over the place in it. But I don't
I
know.
I know what
I
you're
think it's
saying.
more of
That
a
can be good too.
memory thing,
Yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah.
memory of times where like you've been awake for so long and shit like that, and that cup of coffee just tastes amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I like strong coffee, and I like it plain also. I don't put. Sometimes I'll put a little bit of creamer or sugars or almond milks in it, but I am fine 95% of the time just drinking it straight, drinking it plain. And that's another reason why you want good tasting coffee, because if you drink coffee straight, you don't really want to have crappy tasting coffee. you can
Yeah.
mask crappy coffee with tons of creamer if you want.
That is true.
So, yeah.
Des, he also had a question for you. Mr. Monkey asked you, Des, I have never had Southern food. What's your go-to, and what would you recommend as a vegetarian? I try. Love you all. The kissing emoji.
First, first and foremost, as a vegetarian, Southern food might not be for you. Uh, we
Collard
enjoy.
greens. That's all you got then, huh?
I mean, you
That's
have
not
some collard green.
vegetarian. You want to add the meats to it, right? the
Exactly,
Yeah.
like
Oh, that is true. You gotta
bacon
throw that in there.
fats and stuff. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of animal that goes into pretty much any Southern dish. So that's kind of like I said, it's as a vegetarian, it's very hard to suggest a Southern food. Because I mean, you take the meat out, and it's it's just irreplaceable. We, as a people, we love our meats, whether they be fried, smoked, barbecued, what have you. It's kind of the central of our culinary um, existence, essentially. You can have mac and cheese. It's not really a Southern food. I mean, but you have mac and cheese.
Yeah, there you
Depending
go.
on if you're just vegetarian or you go the vegan route, in which then you can't have the mac and cheese. You can have the noodles.
And some grits, maybe?
Right. No, grits. Yeah, grits are usually safe. Okay, to be fair, grits are actually safe. Um, those are usually only optionally meat involved. Um, unless you're like me and you have what me and my wife call breakfast scrambles. Um, which is essentially you're just making like a bowl of grits, and well, you basically scramble your egg with the grits. You throw your breakfast meat in with the grits, and you just eat it all in one bowl. It's efficient. And delicious. Anyway, but no, oh god, my go-to for Southern food, food, like well, that I've been raised in the South. I've lived 98% of my life in the South, and it's just food in general, to be honest. Some of the places I usually enjoy when I go, like, I don't call them my go-to, but I always enjoy it, are these little rinky-dink, like, mom and pop barbecue shops. Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, you dropped the
No.
mic for you on that one.
That's my cat.
But now, like, these little places, they might only have like 8 tables in the entire restaurant, and you question if they potentially paid off people for their health inspector score.
Mhm.
But my God, that food is like just delicious.
Yeah.
So like I said, that tends to be food I like. I'm a mac and cheese snob, 1,000,000%. I usually try and say, like, people might, you know, jokingly label me some kind of elitist for one reason or another. I'm a mac and cheese snob. Okay, I have particular likes in mac and cheese. I have particular styles that I enjoy. And I will judge an entire establishment by the worth of their mac and cheese.
Well, there it is. We got a coffee
So
connoisseur
yeah,
and a mac and cheese connoisseur here on the show live.
There you
So
have it.
Kraft Blue Box, that's not the way to go, 'cause
I mean,
I
it's
like me
not
some Kraft Blue
bad.
Box.
Like, to be like, it's not bad, but definitely step up to Velveeta if you're going box.
No, okay.
Definitely step up to Velveeta if you're going box. That, and I don't know. I was, for whatever reason, like, raised on Velveeta. My mom actually wouldn't buy boxes. She would just buy a block of like Velveeta cheese and just, chop off a slab of it and boil it in some like noodles and such. So yeah. Anyway, but no, yeah, like I said, as a vegetarian, it's just very hard to actually um recommend southern foods to try, because like I said, we throw meat in everything. We have sausage gravy, we have uh like I said, our greens, the leaf greens like mustard greens, collard greens, turnip greens, they normally have some kind of bacon fat in them, or ham or whatever, for flavoring. But it's like it's just, southern food is not the diet for a vegetarian. In fact, I don't think I've met anyone ever down south as a vegetarian.
There you have it.
I
And
don't think I've
about that little glass drop by the, I'll edit that out, right, Gator?
Sure.
So what I think we'll do here is, due to the length of the show, we'll probably just pick 2 more each, Raider, and then we'll just probably move on from there. Save some of these questions for next week. What do you think about that?
Yep, sounds good.
All right, perfect. So I'm going to go with this question here from the Red Bearded Ninja. Question for the show: we need standardized callouts for the planet encounter in Ron, also known as
Yeah.
Macrocosm. Can you give us those callouts? Wrong answers only.
I don't like this. So they're saying we don't actually want to give a correct answer.
They want what will evolve into your silly call out.
Okay.
Essentially,
I know what to
They
do.
want, they want early silly call outs. Essentially,
Yes. And I believe I saw this. Was it even with you, Sweaty, or something? But you can do California, Canada, Florida. That's my silly callouts.
What do
There
you
go.
think,
Wrong
Des?
answer.
let's see, something hilarious and just entirely wrong. Let's go Hardee's, Carl's Jr., and Five Guys. Bonus
Can't
points
even
if you get
guess
that
which one's
reference.
which. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, Hardee's and Carl's Jr., aren't they the same thing?
depends
Not
on what side of the
exactly.
nation.
Nah?
Yeah, depends on what side of the nation you're on, buddy.
They're owned by the
Yeah.
same parent company now, but
Yes.
they don't have the exact same selections at
Yes.
both stores. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We have Hardee's down here. Y'all have
But
Carl's Jr. Or
And I've been to both, and Hardee's had some extra things that Carl's Jr. didn't have. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Carl's Jr. often also has like burrito things too now.
Oh, man.
And I don't know that if Hardee's does that, but yeah.
Yeah, if I had to give wrong answers only, I'm going to say left, no, left. No, your other left.
Nice.
Yep, I get it.
That sounds like a triumph. A little challenge that we need to do. I'll go with I have no idea, man. I'll go with Crown, JMO, and Seagrams, and you
There you
just
go.
gotta figure it out. Crown probably be in the top.
There you have it.
Hmm.
All right, for the last question, we do have one from Fluffy that does have your name Kingsley in it, so definitely got to read
Ooh.
that one. So, question for the show, Kingsley, what are you running in the raid, Titan or Warlock? What is your build for DPS versus controlling the mobs?
Yeah, Warlock. Obviously, I mean, I very rarely raid on other characters, but I like Hunter second best. Sorry.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah, and I love Void Hunter, but my build for Warlock, a lot of Warlocks have been doing this. It is the Starfire Protocol build with basically quadruple fusion grenades, because with the aspect, you get the more powerful 2-burst fusion nades. Plus, with the Starfire Protocol exotic, you get 2 sets of grenades. So it's in essence like 4 fusion grenades in a row. And it's really useful for taking care of ads and for boss DPS along with other weapons. And of course, it being solar, and now also they have cure and restoration aspects or fragments that you can use for offensive grenades, where before you had to use healing nades. Now you can actually use offensive grenades on the solar subclass and have some cure and restoration. So it's also very protective. Plus, you have the Well of Radiance. So I love it. The only downside is we're starting to realize we probably are going to need a Warlock again doing Lunafaction boots because of the slow reloads of all the weapons, and that'll help. But then it sucks because then we can't do the grenade build. But whatever, we'll figure it out. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
All right,
Very
perfect.
good. Very good. Yeah, I'm gonna go with this last question here because I like this question. It's pretty chill question. So, Fluffy Fingers MD, when you're chilling in the house on your day
Sorry.
off, are you rocking sweats, jeans, shorts, jorts, or PJs?
Hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna answer this once I hit the house. Uh, as I tease occasionally on the podcast, I don't wear pants. That's but no, in all seriousness, as soon as I hit the house and change out of my work clothes, I am in, I guess, what can essentially be called my PJs, which is currently usually like a pair of basketball shorts.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know, they're super freaking comfortable. I don't know why,
Couldn't
but
agree
like
more with
athletic
that.
shorts are like just so comfortable to lounge in, which is weird because they're made to be athletic and active in. But God, yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah,
I
shorts
don't
for
wear
me
pants.
for sure, especially growing up in Southern California. And even when the weather here is not too dramatic, or if I'm going to be indoor, I am wearing shorts, even in Utah. And whether they're shorts that I can go out with, or they are shorts that I've moved from basketball shorts for lounging inside the house to just like a pair of like sweat shorts, if you know what I mean.
Fair.
So
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, shorts for me all the time.
Yep, same. I agree. Same thing. Shorts. Like the only reason I own pants is because I have to wear them at work. But other than that, yeah, shorts
I
all
was the
day.
same. Working
Yeah,
in manufacturing, I was the same. Yeah, sorry.
Oh no, you're good. For me, it's well, at this time of the year, if I'm working, it's gonna be jeans all day. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to wear shorts at my work because we deal with fluid-based chemicals with enzymes and all that
Yeah,
kind of fun stuff. So that's understandable. That's a safety thing. That's involved with your PPE, aka protective, personal protective equipment.
there you go.
But that's work. In this case, Fluffy Fingers is asking when you're chilling in the house. So whenever you get home, if it's the middle of winter, this time of year, roughly, I'll say, then I'm going to be tossing on some sweats, something loose. If it gets warm enough, I can probably pull them up to my knees and still be relatively comfortable, same as I would be in shorts. But in the summertime, yeah, basketball shorts are wonderful. Also, may I add that grappling shorts are
Crap.
especially comfortable because I mean, sure, they rest above the knee, but they're purposely built for that and the ventilation just in general. And
Yeah.
because they're grappling shorts, like they're built for, well, just basically comfort in general.
Yeah.
So I would say those are probably what I would be wearing just around my house in general, just something comfortable.
Nice.
Nice. Might have to look into a
Yeah.
pair of grappling shorts.
Yeah, so
I may I
when
may
you first
also
said that, I think I still had Destiny on the mind. I'm like, grappling, okay, he's talking about, like, grappling, like, scaling a building or something grappling, not grappling on the mats and shit like that, so, yeah, my mind went
yeah, like,
elsewhere.
UFC or,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah, I got you.
Wrestling
Yeah, but
trunks.
yeah,
Kind
exactly,
of
exactly.
appropriately.
And I mean, I'm always wearing something on my feet, and I'm totally guilty of wearing Crocs like all the time in the house. That's me. Yeah, you caught me. You caught me.
Uh, it's
GDC's got the wooden spoon. I get the Croc because emotion, no damage. That's a bow to sin media.
Mhm.
yeah, I'm actually entire opposite when it comes to shoes. Like, I don't even wear socks in the house if I can help it. And if I'm not working, I uh, I usually like I go places in sandals. No socks, just sandals. Chill. But yeah, so I don't know. I just feel more comfortable barefooted. Like
Yeah,
socks
I
don't
like that
stay
too.
that comfortable. Yeah,
Sandals a
socks don't.
lot. Yep.
Yeah, socks aren't that comfortable for me for some reason. Uh, Just weird.
All right, Raider. And do you want to take us into our announcements as we wrap up the show?
Yes. So finally, for our announcements, we do have a trivia coming for the Owl Sector Alliance. There will be a prize. Date is still to be determined. We're still working on some scheduling things, but that will be there. We will stream that, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this event. This will be the first one. It's going to be with some of the hosts of the Owl Sector Alliance podcasts, and then from there we'll open it up to the community and yeah, we'll go from there. I'll be able to sit there and send out an announcement via the Discord for how to sign up for it, how to register for the event, and yeah, more to follow.
And
Woohoo.
just a little note on the prize here. Now, our first iteration of this Jeopardy event is going to be intended for the participants, or shall I say, our allied extended communities of the Owl Sector Alliance. Now, the reason for this is because I just personally, I'm speaking for myself here. Um, this podcast wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the Owl Sector Alliance, aka GDC, TGH, Two Titans and a Hunter PTP. So I feel that those folks really brought Raider and I together, really fostered this environment in order for us to do this. So I wanted to, in some way, give back because, may I add, I also won a prize from TGH and I'm still using it to this day underneath my keyboard, being just a mouse pad. So it's things like that. It's small, inexpensive, but still a way to give to our community. So I'll be offering a emblem code that you can redeem to have in game for the prize.
Oh, love you, man.
Yeah,
That'll be
appreciate you
fun.
guys.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're hoping to have Elmer Fudd sub in as host. Like we said, everything is still TBD at the moment because we genuinely want this to work. So we'll keep you in touch in terms of dates.
Okay.
All
I'm
right.
ready
And
though.
slotting. Yeah. Well, I think Rob's pretty excited about it too. He's all fired up.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. And passing the mic back to my co host, Mr. Raider.
All right. So in our Discord, we do have a community creations thing. So if you post something in there with your own creation, i.e., a YouTube video, we want to sit there and talk about it real quick and just give the title of it and give that shout out to the community. So don't hesitate to sit there and post in the community creations. We'd love to see what you guys create and build, and whether it's videos or whatever. So for this week in YouTube, which I love the title, I love that title, bro. Like I thought that was really unique. So we got Two Titans and 100 did post in there, and they have This Week in Destiny, and this is for the fourth week coming up on March 21st with a full reset guide. Make sure you guys check that out. I did post 2 videos myself. I posted a Titan build for Void PvE Endgame for the Titan with 3 different loadouts that you would swap to, and I took that through Root of Nightmares. And then I also have a Root of Nightmares raid stream. That was my first stream ever on YouTube Live that I did. It was a lot of fun. I still need to pick your brain, Sweaty, on how to get like the Discord chat and stuff like that in there. And then SweatySpookz, of course, he did a Void Hunter Trials build, which was really cool. I actually watched that today while I was fishing with the family earlier today, and definitely check that out. You also did another one, Destiny 2 Unwritten Rulebook. So make sure you guys check out those videos if you are interested.
Absolutely. The Destiny 2 Unwritten Rulebook is just kind of more of a comedy take. And I think I want to do this from time to time just to kind of keep things light and to put out some positivity from the Destiny 2 community, just to make sure that, we still got that positivity in rotation.
Yeah,
Excellent.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But
And
well,
I think,
that
that's just
was
about it.
that was the episode. That's episode 9. It
Whoa.
is in the
What a
books.
good
But
show.
before we go, Kingsley Mac and Mr. Des Raven, could you guys please let the listeners know out there, like, what's your socials? How do they get a hold of you if they liked what they've heard? Besides, obviously, the Guardian Hub, which everybody, you make
Nah,
sure you
they don't
subscribe
they
to
don't
that and
like
check
us,
it out.
right? Just kidding. Why would they want to get a hold of us?
I know, right? We're scrubs.
Well, we'll
Like,
definitely more focus on the show, but if they want to get a hold of us too, I guess they can do that. Des, how can they get a hold of you?
you can get a hold of me most easily. Let's just cut out the the bit and save that for
Right.
yeah. But no, you can get a hold of me across the Discords. I've just added this one early, but no, like Discord. I'm across many of the Al Sector Alliance Discords. Usually lurking in existing lore channels, eager to answer a question. Kingsley.
Yeah, and you can find me as Kingsley Mac everywhere. In the Discords, you'll see me listed as that. On Twitter, occasionally I do things there, and my gamer tag Kingsley Mac plus some numbers. I forget what. You can hit me up and find me another way to get those numbers. But you know what? Most importantly, because Sin's not here also, and if you just want to get to know us, actually on our website, there's more information about your hosts. We have little informational tidbits about us and how to join our Discord if you're so interested for the Guardian Hub, how to listen to our podcast. All of that, all you have to remember is our easy website, theguardianhub.com.
The best hub on the net.
Thank you, guys.
Damn, that was awesome. I was actually going to try to get that in before the show ended. I love that little bit from the show.
I think it's only proper. It comes from TGH.
Yep.
I have to be trained to catch that when Sin's absent.
When Sin's not here. Yep.
You gotta sub in, huh? You just sub in real quick.
Yep.
Put me in, coach. I'm ready.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been SweatySpookz, and you can find me in all of the places at Sweaty_Spookz, ending with a Z as in zebra, and that includes Twitch as twitch.tv/SweatySpookz. Twitter and YouTube are the same handle that I just plugged. You can also find me in our Blueberry Lounge Discord, and we genuinely hope that you'll join us there. We'd love to see you there, even just to say good morning, Guardians.
Yes, and you can find me on YouTube at Native Raider. That's N8IV space R8R. You can also find me there without the space on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch.
GG's Guardians, and hope to see you in all of the spaces. Now, a little shameless plug for our clan motto: may your stars be bright and your ghosts sharp, Guardians.
Don't let your enemy take this without a fight.
Cut the tape. Exit stage left.
Thank you guys for joining us.
What's a motto? Love you.
Hello, Moto.
Help?
All right, Guardian. Thank you for listening to that episode, episode 9, Fat Thorn, featuring the Guardian Hub. In this particular section, this is just going to be a little bit of bonus content, a little reward for the listener for listening all the way through. Over the next 4 episodes, what we are going to do, well, I am going to do rather, is I'm going to be reading some lore. I'm going to offer 2 chapters from the book Cloud Strider Legacies. And that will be my little listener reward at the end of the next 4 episodes, including this one. So starting chapter 1, Stargazer, and after that, we'll go to chapter 2, begin Lemonok Lee. So bear with me. Apologies if I mispronunciate things here. However, we're just going to deal with what we got and just enjoy this. So, chapter 1, The Stargazer. 1, 2, 3. Eyes on me, Ninos. It's Thursday, and you know what that means. That's right, it is Cloud Strider Day. What do the Cloud Striders do? Right again, they keep us all safe. And how do we tell them thank you? By remembering them. Today we will learn about Stargazer. A stargazer is someone who looks into the sky and studies the stars. The Cloud Strider who picked Stargazer as their call sign was very smart. Our planet Neptune is a hidden world. It is very large, but with our thick atmosphere and powerful magnetic field, it is very hard to see anything on the surface. This hides our city and keeps us safe, but it also hides the universe from us. We could see the stars, but not study them. Stargazer was the first person to learn how to use the math to see the sky. And Stargazer didn't just see stars, they also saw Earth. Do you know about Earth, children? That's right. Earth is a planet closer to the sun, and it's where humans came from a long time ago. We thought there were no humans left on the Earth, and we could not see the check. But when Stargazer looked to Earth, they saw more humans. But Earth is a very dangerous place now. The people there do not go to school, and they do not go to market. Instead, they are bullied by the warlords, who force them to do things instead of asking politely. Stargazer worried what would happen if the warlords ever found Neptune. They might bully us too. A world is very hard to find, and the people of Earth had forgotten about our tiny colony ship. But on Earth, they have computers too. And the warlords might learn of us just like we learn about the stars. Stargazer traveled to Earth and used a special computer called a war mind to make all the other computers on Earth forget about Neptune. Today, we still watch Earth, and when the warlords are gone, we will go back and help the people there clean up their world. Just like when you help your parents clean up. And doesn't everyone like having a clean home? That's all for today, Ninos. 3, 2, 1. Now, have fun, and remember, thank you, Cloud Striders. Carlita Capybara Corner, S43, Episode 19. Chapter 2, Lemonok Lee. It shows some text. Signal detected. Protocol. Type beam. Status priority. Origin recognized. CR.Stargazer. Decrypting. Transcript follows. Excellent. Excellent. Boot sequence is go. System is yellow. Ambient. Thumping. Oh, bother. That door is not going to last. No. Nope, no. Thought Golden Age Earth made things to last. Estimate, 12 minutes? Ambient. Thumping. 7 minutes. Well, we've done with more, less, right? Hernandez? Hernandez? Please, I really need you to sit up now. Nod? Joseph, I need you not to die. Not after Luang, Shabra, and Hajadi. Cloudstriders are supposed to die, not everyone else. Not part of the arrangement. Yes, okay. We will get back to this. Ambient. Time. Malahayata. I'm afraid your time is awful. What to do now? What to do? Ambient. Thumping. Yelling. I just need quiet, please. Breathe in. Breathe out. Meliati Access Information, Strategic Operations, Global Scale, Permission, IC, etc., etc. Stand by for new operational parameters. A little absurd, isn't it, Hernandez? These Earth survivors will kill each other over access to clean water, and we're going to teach them Chaucer? They'll debate Dufu while dying of sepsis, I suppose? Ambient. Thumping. Yelling. Gunfire. Whatever they can absorb in 5 minutes at least, before Karunta's inheritors break down that door. Shouldn't have shot him, I suppose. Oh, nope. It is just dawning now that perhaps we don't want our vindictive little crowd of sycophants pushing all the red buttons in this bunker after avenging the fallen light wielder, No, Hernandez, I don't think we do. Ambient. Thumping. I said I need quiet. Quiet? Yes. Ayati Access Warsat Network. What's overhead? Gamma projector. Quick, clean. Neurons will be dead before they register any pain. Merciful. A good deal more merciful than this warband has been with their neighbors. Not just one army, though, eh, Hernandez? Oh, no. So many people saw us come down here. Entire camp. 3, maybe 400? People talk. Warlords listen. Why Disparel could clean them out. Painless. Ambient. Thumping. Gunfire. No, you're right, Hernandez. Inappropriate. We didn't come to be judged an executioner, did we? No, we came to teach. No, not teach. We came to preach. Bring the gospel of civilization as only we knew it. Ambient. Thumping. So then, how to keep the child from playing with the gun? Can't move the gun. Can't break the child's hand, so destroy the gun? Malchiadi Sunset Protocol. Initiate full system wait. Malchiadi access Global Archive. Access Rasputin root code number, etc., etc. Find replace. Neptune equals null. Exodus Indigo equals null. Back. Engage Sunset Protocol. Ambient. Explosion. Unidentified shouting. Well, Hernandez, now we find our way home. And there it is. All right, Guardian. And that concludes our little lore section for today. Tune in next week, and what we'll do is we'll be going through the next 2 chapters, being chapters 3 and 4. The Blue Jay and Conrad Jane. Cheers, Guardians.